Are you not entertained? Quarterfinal game 2 in the CFP produces a 2-overtime thriller. And when Texas needed plays, they made plays. They made enough to beat Arizona State 39-31 in double overtime. Here we go. It's the Orange Bloods live post-game show brought to you by the good folks at the Lowy Law Firm. You see that handsome man himself, Adam Lowy, up in the upper left as he always is. Thanks to them for their great sponsorship. Everybody jump in the Specs chat. We've already got a super chat, and you can add to that list. We will obviously get to those. I'm Chad Hastings. Jason Sukumel with me at TCH Social Austin. That's where we did another watch party. Make your plans for that next watch party on January 10th. And, of course, this guy over here is Jeff Ketchum of OrangeBloods.com, Orange Bloods Live, and all the rest. Anwar Richardson coming up from Atlanta. Catch, let's get your thoughts. 39-31 Texas in double OT.
I mean, sometimes you just have to stop for a second and forget about everything that happens in a game and just acknowledge, like, that was singularly one of the more exciting and memorable moments in Texas football history. I mean, you're in a playoff game, you're down to 3rd and 13, you need a touchdown, final play, you convert that. I mean, all of the drama in this game, the pressure of if they were to lose this game, what it would mean to this season. Quinn Ewers has an honest to goodness, like, this is his new legacy game. This, late fourth quarter overtime performance by Quinn was pretty sensational. It's a game that we'll pick apart in the coming week in a lot of different ways. But what matters is that Texas won, that it included a lot of drama and incredible moments inside of it. I'm a little bit speechless by kind of how it all unfolded. I thought Texas was cooked there for a second, and yet they move on, advance to a national semifinal. Second straight year that's happened. First time in school history that will have happened. First time any school has, along, I guess, with Penn State, won a couple of games, got to the semifinal. Like, Texas cements that this season is a bona fide success. I think they've hit their minimum bar. And I just wow for Quinn Ewers. What a moment for him, especially considering this game was on the verge of being remembered for different reasons. That some of the heroes of this game get to be heroes when Chad, you and I did a show, I think yesterday, where we teased the legacy part of what today was. Quinn Ewers, this is the new high moment of his career in the biggest game, along with Washington from a year ago, that he will have played. I'm really just happy for everybody involved. The Longhorns get to play another game. They'll have to play better against Oregon or Ohio State. No, by the way, Ohio State up early 7-0 in that game. But man, on a day like today, you just focus on the good. You celebrate getting to the Final Four. You celebrate winning a playoff game in this kind of fashion. Are there concerns inside of this game that will need to be discussed? Yes, but focus on the fact that they just pulled out one of the most exhilarating finishes to a game that I've certainly ever experienced in 3 decades of covering this team. Kind of a wow moment in the history of Texas football.
Jason, I'll get your thoughts in a second, but let's start the super chat game with a 50 spot. Thank you, James. 49.99. Quinn M. Ewers with a bunch of exclamation points. There's a 4th and 13 we could talk about. He made some big time throws in that second half. And when it looked like Ketch said, when it looked like Texas might have been sunk, he dragged them out of the water with an incredible throw. It was wild stuff.
He had a lot of incredible throws, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought he had the numbers are good, but he had some throws were like, whoa, that placement was perfect, man. My thoughts, just holy crap. I'm exhausted. I'm mentally exhausted.
Yeah.
That was something else. We got people yelling and screaming behind us at the TCH social watch party. I feel like I'm at a stadium. It was crazy, dude. I mean, Texas pulls, just this close from falling off the cliff. And we're, like Ketch said, this was a line in the sand game. They don't win this game. And I know, Ketch, you're doing like I am. You're writing your thoughts as the game's going on. I write something like, oh, crap, I got to rewrite that. I got to rewrite that because if they don't win this game, I don't think this season is viewed as a success. I mean, it's a good season, but doesn't meet expectations. Now suddenly they've crossed that line. But man, what a game. So many moments could have turned this game one way or another. And, I said it, Chad, to you. We were watching this game. And at the time, it looked like Arizona State was going to win. I said, I don't know that Arizona State's the better team, even if they win. But I don't know that Texas is the better team. And these teams played toe-to-toe. I think if they played it 10 times, Texas wins the majority of them. But I tell you what, tip of the cap to Arizona State. That's a gritty bunch. They fought hard. They played well, battled back. Texas just made those big plays in the biggest moments. That's what championship is.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, James, thank you for starting us off with that $49.99. Here's another one from another James, $19.99 with hell yes in capital letters, the exclamations, the hook 'em. James is excited about this one. We will continue to take your super chats as we roll on. In fact, this came in before we were even done, fellas. Steven, before the game ended, 1999, Ewers is our Dak Prescott. He simply is not clutch. Our offensive line sucked because we can't run the ball. Sark's play calling has consistently disappeared in the third quarter ever since he's been our head coach. Steven sent that before the end of the game, just to be technical, just to be correct.
I mean, the second, third quarter, and some of the fourth, I'm writing my column. I'm like, Texas has 70 yards of offense since that first drive. They weren't good. But then at the end of the game, they're great. Sark in overtime makes some really nice calls. And obviously, when Ewers he's not clutch. He couldn't have been more clutch than he was tonight. So.
Exactly. He was clutch as hell. And then somebody else, S-Rone, throwing in $5 with a cardiac horns. Man. And Ketch, obviously, so many opportunities for this thing to go wrong. Quinn Ewers sets up his kicker for a couple of moments to finish this thing, and they couldn't get it done. There were clock management issues you could talk about for both sides of this game. Honestly, I would get on both coaches at times for not taking advantage of certain situations, and maybe you're being a little too conservative at times. But in the end, it ends up being Texas. And Ketch, there are games where there's one down and distance that gets talked about. 4th and 13 is, I don't care what else happens. 4th and 13 will never be forgotten because it does get this team, to Jason's point, gets them over that bar we've been talking about. It gets them to the semis.
Yeah, and real quick before we go back to the super chats, because I see Chris just dropped in a $50 super chat, so definitely want to get to those. Mm-hmm. This is the first. This is why the playoffs expanded edition is a good idea. That a week ago we didn't get one of these games, and people kind of bitched about it. Like, I don't even know if I like football if we're not going to get a great game kind of mixed in. And it was like, well, okay, but we're going to get the payoff eventually. We're going to get one of these moments that reminds us of we wouldn't otherwise have this without the new system that's in place. And today was great. Today was great college football. There were butterflies as a reporter covering the game. The stakes were so heavy that this doesn't get replicated in a bowl system where you go to the Cotton Bowl or the Alamo Bowl, or it's not that. So I think one of the real interesting things as we watch another quarterfinal right now in Ohio State and Oregon, and Ohio State right now looking very formidable. And there's a conversation to be had about Ohio State if that's who Texas plays, and whether or not what Texas did today is remotely good enough to win a game against a team like that. But it's cool that this is what we do for a living, and that we now get to talk about, something that we'll remember 20, 25 years from now. We'll remember this game, the end of this game, the touchdown pass to Golden, the missed kicks, it really felt like Quinn Ewers was having a moment. And then Bert Auburn kept getting in the way. And then
he set him up twice.
Like, Chad, there was going to be this awkward conversation where we go, Quinn stepped up really big in the big moments, but maybe it was not stepping up big in the little moments in the middle. Like, there was going to be a real awkward conversation about, well, Quinn did everything late that he needed to do, and it might not have been enough to win the game. And, there's a lot to unpack about today's game. We could do nothing but the overtime on this post-game show, and we would still fill 2 hours. We could do 2 hours just on coming out of halftime and why Texas is such a bad third quarter and at times second half team. We could do 2 hours on Bert Auburn. There's a lot to unpack. I will say this, Chris did send $50 for a super chat.
Hang on.
I'll let you read this one out.
With all due respect to Chris, Steven, 99.
Oh, okay.
Attention to Tom G and others. The gauntlet has been thrown down. I wholeheartely apologize to Quinn. Dude has ice in his veins. Can't wait to beat Ohio State in the semis. It is 7-0 Ohio State early, as Ketch said in that one. Steven, thank you for that, Benjamin. We appreciate you at 99.99. And now we can move on to the 49.99 from Chris. Chris with 49.99. Me, like y'all, have watched this team all year. Quinn is our biggest liability. Stop waiting for him to change or this offense to wake up. Defense drives us. No one should defend him just because of overtime. By the way, Blue fumbled again, but sorry. Where is it?
Saved by the sideline. I made that.
But he was, right.
You should only throw to Blue on the sideline. It's bailed him out a couple times.
Again, but he was saved by the sideline. Wow.
Pretty harsh criticism with Quinn Ewers. I don't understand it. I mean, he wasn't perfect.
Chris, your team gave up a few extra points in this one, and your quarterback had to make big-time throws, and he did. Some of those throws were just nasty in this game.
Yeah, look, I think we're at a point, really, I thought the only criticism I really had of Quinn today was that he's just not a good thrower of the deep ball. And it's funny because Sukamel and I have been having this conversation since this kid was a sophomore in high school. And, the why it exists the way that it exists, I don't know, man. I'm sure if there was a real answer, they could probably solve the riddle. Other than, that's just not what he does best. He was really good today. What happened on offense today is a bit bewildering. They had 5 plays in the first quarter, 16 plays in the second quarter, 6 plays in the third quarter. So they go to the fourth quarter, and the offense has only had the ball for 27 plays, but they're up by 16. So it was a really hard. What does this mean? Because on paper, that's one of those. It almost looks like on paper. Well, we turned the ball over 4 times, and the other team has none. What do we think the score is, Bob? And the game script was different. It was wildly different than I think. Texas couldn't run the ball. The passing game completely shuts down after the first drive of the game. Again, there's a lot to unpack. I would just say this. Quinn, I thought, was excellent on the fourth quarter drive that puts Texas up by 16, right? So they've been kind of stumbling around, but then they put the hammer down. They score the touchdown. You think it's game over. Not a lot happens until he puts the team into a position twice to have 2 game-winning field goals. He converts the 4th and 13. He throws the 25-yard touchdown pass on the first play of the second overtime. He throws a great ball of Golden in the end zone. In the end, Quinn Ewers had himself a moment. It was not a perfect performance. Again, there's a lot about the offense throughout the entirety of the game that I feel like a lot of questions should probably be asked of. But look, we'll get Anwar on. And look, we're not going to have Anwar on the show forever. Because one of the things about winning a game like this is that, and I know Texas, it hasn't happened. This is Steve Sarkeesian's first real big bowl win. He hadn't had one of those. They get a trophy and everything. And there'll be the presentation. They've already held a trophy. But, the post locker room stuff takes a little bit longer to get to. So who knows when the hell we'll see Anwar, just because of the fact that it's a little different after you win a bowl game like this. They don't go straight to the press conferences. But I just, as someone, we can nitpick Quinn, okay? I have no problem at some point after we've talked about all the good for so long, if we want to turn back around and then go, man, in the second and third quarters, what was up? No problem with that. But what matters is that in the biggest moments in the fourth quarter and certainly in overtime, Quinn Ewers became the best player on the field. And that's what we've been waiting for him for his entire career, is to be that guy. So when it happens, everybody's got to stop and just give him his flowers. And there were big chunks of this game where it looked like when it was over with, we were going to say, Jesus Christ, man, was the kid from Arizona State right? Was he the best quarterback in this game? Those posts were all over Orange Bloods with 2 minutes to go in the game. And then Quinn Ewers really steps up the way you would want a third-year starter in such a moment to step up. Good for Quinn Ewers. This was his career legacy was on the line. It really was. And he comes out of it on the other side with the most memorable closing finish to any game that he's ever had in his entire career. To the spoils go the victors.
Or to the victors go the spoils. Like either way, right? I mean, either way.
Whatever.
He's saying the defense carried him. Texas defense gave up 510 yards. You can't say, well, it was overtime, man. There's only, 35 yards in overtime.
I did not expect to see that number. I do like seeing this number, though. Our guy Barb's 10. Good to see you, Barb's 10. 99, another Benjamin. Respect to ASU. They had to be perfect. Scattaboo got his. A good quarterback throws a pick, while the better quarterback wins the game. The defense needs a group endorsement. Is it DEF? I'm assuming that's defense needs a group endorsement.
Defense made plays, but they had some breakdowns too. You don't get the 500 plus deep pass, throwing a pass. He gets heated up in the second.
Hey, can we turn Jason up a little bit?
Can we turn Jason up a little bit? Believe.
I don't know if it's showing up on YouTube like that. I'm not hearing him real well.
Give him a little more, Jason.
Yeah, I'm saying, the defense, I think, I'm not going to rail on the defense, but they did have some breakdowns.
I got to turn myself up instead of Jason. Terribly sorry. Okay, yeah, we got Jason turned up a little bit. Is he better for you now? Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's just me.
Maybe, all right. We got him cranked up pretty good, but all right, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Barb's 10, great to hear from you and great to see you out here at TCH Social Austin. Make your plans for Friday the 10th, 6:30.
Yeah, I think, hey, Chad, just so you know, I think someone in the chat has it right. I think we're hearing Jason on your mic. I don't think we're hearing him on his mic.
Weird. Okay. All right. That is.
Are you hearing him in your headset?
I am hearing him, yeah. All right, let's see if we can figure that out. Keep talking, Jason.
I'm talking about Queen.
I really can't hear him. And it's unanimous. Nobody can hear Jason.
Nobody can hear Jason. That's not good. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we don't want to do that. All right. Well, you want to give we want to give Jason my headset, and I'll try to figure this out.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, I don't know what to do. If that's the answer, that's the answer.
Here, I'll figure this out. All right.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even remember what I talking about the previous super chat was saying something about the defense carrying Texas. And I said, listen, it was a solid performance by the defense, and you give up 510 yards, and only 35 of that was in overtime. So this defense did have some breakdowns, including Scatterboot gets deep for a reception, he throws a touchdown pass, and gets heated up in the running game. So, I don't think you can give all the credit to this game to the defense and take some people for whatever reason Quinn it seems like. But yeah, do we have another super chat here?
Here, I'm going to pull up some super chats here, Jason. FYI, see if you can get that mic a little closer to your mouth. It's still a little quiet on your end. Kind of weird. $10. Well, come back up there. Hold on. $10 super chat here. What the come on. Okay. We're going to get it to work. I promise. All right, here we go. What the F is the deal with Sark and Auburn's love relationship? The kid has made us suffer for too long. 66% field goal average. That's a D grade. Why won't Sark let another take the reins at field goals? God, man, I hate for the answer to be as obvious as he doesn't think that he has an option that's better than Auburn. Guys, I know Sark's got to be insanely frustrated. By the way, Ohio State now up 14-0 on Oregon. Don't look now, but that could be a Texas-Ohio State showdown in the semifinals in Jerry World if Oregon doesn't get its act going. Ohio State looking really, really good early on in its quarterfinal matchup in the Rose Bowl with midway through the first quarter. They've just dominated that game. I don't know that there's anything that Sark's going to do at this stage of the season with the kicking game. It's a bit ironic, guys, because Jeff Banks was taking a little bit of a victory lap earlier this week and kind of celebrating that Bert Auburn was going to come back for another season. They had to find a way at some point in 2025 to get better at place kicker. It almost cost them their season today, guys.
Chad at the end of regulation said, hey, wouldn't it be something if Bert Auburn got a chance at redemption or something for the game winner? I go, well, didn't he just have that? He just missed two. So he already had his chance at redemption after missing the first.
He did. He got two. Jeff, Ketch, are you hearing both of us all right?
Yeah, y'all are both just not as powerful.
I can't move my mic much closer. I can try to speak a little louder. But, Ketch, if they're going to address the kicking needs, it has to be in the portal, right? They didn't do it in the first window. I don't know if there's still maybe a kicker that's still in the portal. I don't know. I haven't looked. But you got to hope that in the spring semester or the spring portal window, rather, in April, that maybe some kicker, experienced, proven kicker enters that portal, and you can grab them then. Texas, I get it. Bert Auburn's coming back. That's good. That's exciting. But they've got to upgrade to that position just like they did the punting position.
Yeah, I mean, they have to get better. Bert Auburn has to be better. They're not going to – they won't win a national championship this year if the place kicking doesn't get better before the season is over. Our guy ATX Bates jumping in 998.9. Quinn haters, get the F out. The man threw 3 passes in a row to score 14 points when facing 4th and 13. He's pulled this program from the depths and pulled this game from the depths. Just win, baby. Just win. ATX Bates, I don't have – there's nothing to disagree with there.
I know why ATX Bates likes it, because he told me he had prize picks Quinn to throw 3 touchdowns. He only had 1, and then he gets 2 on back-to-back passes. So he got his prize picks on back-to-back touchdown passes.
Hey, I'm glad somebody won on prize picks today.
Exactly.
It was not me.
Well,
Macy for $10 is finally we see Quinn deliver the I will not be denied performance we've all been waiting for. You're exactly right, Casey. In the end, Quinn Ewers is the hero. I'm at some point going to have to finish my Orange Bloods written report because I had to change it 9 times.
These games are tougher for you and me. We're trying to write our kind of post-game analysis as the game's going on, and you have to keep changing.
This one was impossible.
Yeah, I literally had 2. I had an intro where the Texas, they lost, and I had an intro where they won, and I had an out in my last paragraph where they lost, and I could make sure I get the right ones when I posted it. I hope I did. I haven't changed the look.
Hey, Ketch, I'm getting from the people that there's just a lot of background noise with us. Do you want us to just duck out, you run this thing, and I'll see if we can get it fixed on this end? I don't want it to be too distracting for everybody.
No, but I probably need to talk the most.
There you go. Okay. Fair
But
enough.
I mean, if when I would just say, don't feel like you can talk too loud into the mics. You
Okay.
sound a little bit okay, Chad. Jason's feels a little distant, but overall, nothing that we can't work with.
Okay. All right. We'll just try. All right. We'll try to speak up, but you go ahead and run those super chats.
John Lynch for $9.99 says, never a doubt that was brutal for my health, but Quinn's final 3 throws were fantastic. Is that how we're going to remember the performance? Is it Quinn's final 3 throws and that's it? That's the thing?
Those are the memorable ones. But I mean, listen, that throw he had, I'm trying to remember, was it second or third quarter? It was to Bond, and he threw it on the sideline and just put it, perfect ball placement. And Quinn had some high-level NFL throws this game. The last 3 are going to be the ones everybody remembers. But he had some really high-level throws throughout the game. As you said, Catch, and I put it in my thoughts, the only thing I'm really nitpicking him on is his deep ball. I mean, I thought other than the deep ball, he was flawless today, or close to it.
He's just never going to throw the deep ball well while he's at Texas. Maybe as a pro, it eventually gets there. I've stopped wanting that to be a huge part of the offense. I mean, I kind of feel like we know what it looks like, and I will say the results in the last few weeks have mostly been. He throws a pick today, but also he's created a couple I don't say this to be completely negative. I actually say it to be kind of funny because sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes he throws those balls so poorly, the deep balls, that neither player, the defender or the offensive player, knows where the hell the ball is. They can't locate it. And it sometimes just leads the defender into tackling the offensive player. That happened today. They got a pass interference penalty, and I'm convinced that neither guy knew where the ball was. It was like their heads were on swivels, but because they couldn't locate the ball, it ended up leading to, I think it was Golden who got tackled, but nevertheless.
It was an underthrown ball. He had to slow down. Golden had to slow down, and the defender ran into him.
I mean, even on that first touchdown pass of DeAndre Moore, that ball, in the NFL, that thing's got to be thrown a little bit more on a line. It was a little bit late, but hey, you don't nitpick in college football touchdown throws. But but I thought there were some sideline throws that he made that were different than we've seen, even just going back as recent as the SEC championship game. He was throwing balls, especially on the drive that sets up the field goal that's not made at the end of regulation. But when that drive, they get the ball back at around their 21-yard line, that first throw to the boundary to Bolden that got that drive going, that was not a throw that he was throwing a month ago. So I think that you could see there that the health with Ewers is better, because that's that throws the throw that he threw the interception on in the SEC championship game. And those balls today were just on a different level. It's when he's at his best, those balls he can throw in his sleep. I thought he was really good today, and it was mystifying why the offense wasn't working in the middle parts of this game, second and third quarter, and for a big chunk of the first quarter. It didn't feel like Quinn was playing poorly, but they just weren't really doing anything on offense. Maybe it's as simple as, when you're not running the ball at all and you're trying to run the ball, you come off the field pretty quickly when you don't succeed. I don't know. It was, again, strange game to break down, because if we wanted to spend 5 hours on everything that happened before overtime, I don't even know what the hell we would be talking about. Tom G, $100, Chad. It's a hundo. It's a hundo. Matter of fact, my eyes are so bad, I thought for a second it might have just been $1. And then I was just going to be like, I love Tom so much, he gets to get in for $1. But here's a little something for the new MICs. Seriously, I think Quinn played pretty damn good, but Sark's play calling was awful post the first touchdown. 2nd and 3 with 6 minutes left in the game, and he calls a bomb to Bond, which is picked. I mean, It wasn't, guys, it wasn't Sark's finest day as an offensive play caller. But again, look, I feel like we got 9 days until they play the semifinal game next Friday. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about, I think, the negatives. I have a hard time today getting lost in the minutia of what happened in the second and third quarters, when what happens in double overtime at the end of overtime is the thing that ultimately decides the game. I feel you, Tom. I do. Guys, is Sark an elite play caller?
Everybody will tell you. I heard Dillingham said he's the best play caller in college football yesterday. So people will tell you he will, but there were moments this game that left a lot to be desired. But hey, man, if you're going to say that, a couple of those play calls in the in overtime, I thought were fantastic. To get, the Isaiah Bolden touchdown, or I'm sorry, Matthew Golden touchdown, the Gunnar Helm play to get Gunnar free. I mean, bringing him across the formation. I mean, if you're going to, this offense needs to not have these stagnant moments, long stagnant moments, but you also got to give Sark some credit. You're right, Catch. We're nitpicking this game, and I know I did it in my column because I'm writing as it goes on. I'm writing my column in real time, so it may come across as negative. I got a buddy who watches like basketball. He always says, "Oh, who cares? Only 5 minutes. The last 5 minutes are when it counts." I don't agree with it. That's what he says. That's what this game feels like. Okay, yeah, we can nitpick the second and third and some of the fourth quarter, some of the first quarter. But really, man, all we're going to remember a week from now is at the end of regulation, the 2 overtimes. Celebrate those, and let's not nitpick too much.
Another $100 super chat. So feels like we shouldn't ignore the hundos from Hooked on the Horns. We've got to run the ball better against either Ohio State or Oregon. But with that said, I'm so fucking excited that we're moving on to the next round. Hook 'em. Love it when you're excited like a hundo. Hooked on the Horns. We love that kind of excitement. Hook, they got to do everything better than they did today. Every single thing, even on defense. Look, Scatterbo was the best player that Texas has played this season. I guess it would be either him or like Cade Klubnik, but like he made a real impression on me today. Like I walk out with a ton of respect for Arizona State as a team, but Scatterbo was really good. He said he couldn't be stopped. Texas really didn't stop him. Tip of the cap to that dude, man. Like he walks out with an L on the scoreboard, but if somebody wants to tell me that guy should have been in New York for the Heisman, okay, yeah, I get it. That guy's really good. Is Chad?
Catch. I'm messing with a couple of things here. Does that
Scatterbo?
Let me know if that sounds any better. By the way,
not only does Scatterbo throw a touchdown pass, and he runs for 143 yards, 8 catches, 99 yards. That dude did it all. I mean, he was the best player that Texas has played, and probably the best player on the field.
By the way, Oscar for $49.99 says in all caps, because when you want to make a real impression in the super chats, you send the 50 spot and then you write in all caps, "I told you all Quinn is the truth." He's not perfect, but he's my guy and he should be yours. Okay, Oscar. Hey, I don't know that he's not anybody's guy. Everybody wants the same thing for Texas to win as many games as possible. And look, if Texas doesn't win in double overtime, the story of this game would have been the offense and this team as a whole playing with its food a little too much. I mean, that's my original lead was, hey, kids, Texas football showed up today. They took an early lead. They hit an offensive lull. I know both of you guys this week I've asked the question of, do we think we'll see Texas go through one of these 30-minute offensive lulls that they've gone through. And kind of to a man, we all thought, well, maybe, yeah, because that's kind of who they are. And
Jeff,
then,
just real quick, Catch. Let me give a test. Give him some, Jason.
Catch. We said that in the prize pick show. Good. All right. Hallelujah. The prize pick show, we said, hey, will Texas hit one of these offensive lulls? And we're like, well, the odds sure would seem to dictate that they will, right? Because it happens more often than not. So I can't say I was totally surprised, but it's still in real time. I mean, listen, we're celebrating the win. It's exciting. It's frustrating as hell to watch those lulls. They had 77 yards on their first drive of the game in 2 plays. And then I have to look at my notes, but like for the next, like going midway through the third quarter, they had another like 70 yards of offense total on all their drives. So it's like, they've got to figure this out. It is who they are at this point, I guess. Right. Yeah. But I mean, you almost have to expect that they're going to have a quarter and a half, 2 hours or 2 quarters even, where this offense just is not going to do much. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. And at some point, listen, if it happens against Ohio State or Oregon in the championship game, it's probably going to catch up to them. So they got to try to get that somehow figured out before they take the field again.
Yeah, we talked about it while we were watching. Now that I feel like now I can focus in on the post-game show. Okay. Now that I figured out what the deal was.
It's like night and day. I don't know what you did, Chad.
I don't either. I'll explain to you. I'll explain to you later what I did. I did figure it out though. I saw something that had changed, and oh yeah, that's what changed. But I mentioned Catch, to Jason, when Anwar comes on, he won't have to guess long before he guesses sort of what some of the themes will be in this discussion. And one of them clearly is the, that won't work against the next team type of thing. But hey, survive in advance. I think you mentioned Jim Valvano at some point today too. I thought of Jimmy V. It's like, man, you just got to figure out a way. And this had one of those kind of close NFL playoff game feels to it. Catch, I know you were going through some. Did we get all the 100s cleared?
Yes.
Okay, all 100s have been cleared. Let me go up to the top here, and we'll start banging through. Jay with a $5. I'm sick to my stomach with embarrassment. I can't even be happy we won yet. Don't worry, Jay. It'll sink in. I'm sure it will come, but I just don't know what to say. Say you won, Jay. Say you've got plans for January 10th. That's a good place to start. $5 super chat from Tyler. Quinn Ewers carried the team. No run game. Defense collapsed. O-line made a mistake after mistake. Put some respect on his name, fans.
I agree with Tyler. I mean, the defense, I don't know that they collapsed. Yes, they gave up 510 yards. Yes, they had some big breakdowns at inopportune times, but there were moments where the defense played pretty well, right? They pressured the quarterback. For a lot of the game, they held Scadaboo in check, and then he just went crazy. But yeah, I agree, man. I mean, I don't understand the chats at the top of the show that were banging on Quinn so much. I mean, listen, the dude, look at me pull up his stats. 20 of 30, 322 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had the 1 interception, which was a bad ball. I don't understand the play call. It was a bad throw. But a 183.2 passer rating, throwing for 322 and 3 touchdowns. That's good football. That's good football. And yet people are still banging on Quinn Ewers. I don't know. I mean, no quarterback ever is going to be perfect. Although I think Jared Goff had a perfect QBR maybe a few weeks ago.
Right.
But you get the point. They're going to make some mistakes sometimes. So, I mean, people need to appreciate what he did. He played really well today.
And Catch, you like to look at those passer ratings because, again, it takes the emotion out of it. 183.2 on Quinn's side of it and 88.4 on Levitt's side by the end of the game. It was impressive numbers. And then we talked about it, Catch, on I know House Divided this week. Talking about the number of attempts for Quinn, right? Could it get up into that 30 or 35 or 4, whatever? It was 30 for him, 30 rushes. If I tell you that balance to start the game, all you're going to say to me is, man, what did they run for? Because if they do that, 30 passes, 30 runs, I'm going to assume Texas controlled the game. 1.8 per carry is a big part of this game, clearly.
I would find myself asking why. If you told me it was 30 and 30 and it was in double overtime.
Right. Now, that's different. You're right.
I mean, there's a big part of like, what the hell was it happening with the Texas offense today that, because look, Arizona State doesn't get into the end zone offensively until the fourth quarter. That's a 24-8 game that's built on 2 field goals and a safety. So, I think you got to be careful. By the way, now Ohio State up 17-0 on Oregon.
Look out.
This is a weird game, though, where statistics kind of get skewed when you have a 2-play, 77-yard drive. You have a punt and return for a touchdown. That changes. You look at like time of possession, almost 38 minutes for Arizona State to 22 for Texas. Arizona State ran 97 plays compared to 60 for Texas. So it's going to skew the stats a little bit the way this game unfolded.
Yep.
So you can't base it all on stats. But, yeah, it was just kind of a bizarre, unique game in a lot of ways.
By the way, Catch, just real quick, Jay Lee wants you to know for $2 that he was dead wrong. Dead wrong.
Was he, though? Because
what Jay Lee? I don't remember.
If we get to the beginning of the fourth quarter, it did not look like Jay Lee was wrong.
Yeah. Well, in terms of, I guess his thought was that Sark might be calling some plays to protect Quinn in some ways, right? But wasn't Jay
de-emphasizing Quinn and the passing game?
De-emphasizing Quinn, right? But wasn't he making the assumption that they'd be running the ball? I mean, he was making.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, Jay. I don't know if you're maybe being a little too hard on yourself to say you were dead wrong, because I don't think any of your calculations had 1.8 yards per carry in it.
Look, where Quinn ends up being the savior today is that they were in we have no choice but to throw the ball and put it in Quinn's hands. I mean, that's ultimately where he ends up being the star. Is you got to throw it on 3rd or 4th and 13.
Whew, what a
By
throw,
the way,
too.
What a play
throw,
call,
what a route,
play design that allows Matthew Golden to be that wide open in the end zone. And
Catch, how about back-to-back? 4th and 13 to Golden. How about the play design and the throw to Gunnar Helm?
Yeah.
Like, that's a badass play design.
Good calls,
and
good routes,
great
throws. I mean, perfect across the board on those plays.
Yeah.
No, and again, just it's a weird game because I think we want to nitpick the defense quite a bit because of some breakdowns that happened in the fourth quarter, but for the majority of that game, the defense was really good.
Yeah,
the fourth quarter, when we're 45 minutes into the game, nobody would think to belittle the Texas defense.
Yeah,
then
you're
in the
right.
fourth quarter, Scatterbo throws a touchdown pass, and Malik Muhammad gets beat on that play, probably as bad as he's been beaten all season long. It drove me crazy.
While the guy's running into the end zone, he's probably 10 yards from the end zone still. Muhammad's like, what's going on? What happened? Like, dude, try to finish the effing play before you start complaining. Okay?
Well, and Catch, it goes back to the old thing, right? Bill Walsh or Mac Brown, all the coaches we've heard talk about explosive plays. It came down to explosive plays for this defense. They were controlling this game to a certain point and then just giving up the biggest chunks at the biggest moment and not being ready for certain things. That trick play was at the perfect down distance and part of the field for a trick play. And you looked like you didn't know it was coming. The fake punt developed in a moment and you look like you didn't know that was coming. So special teams had a couple moments.
We can also do 2 hours on Texas special teams today.
Yeah. Other than
an adventure it was all game long.
Yeah. Catch, I was trying to make the argument before the kicks that maybe the Bolden touchdown was equal to the other 2 mistakes that were made, but once you add those missed kicks, then the bad outweighs the good. So yeah, it was rough overall. Definitely.
I mean, they got 9 days. So the players and the coaches can enjoy tonight and today and, go home and have a good time tonight and really enjoy it. But there'll be a point when they, maybe for the coaches, it's as early as tonight or on the trip back, they'll start thinking and they'll go, okay, well, we're going to have to make a kick next week.
Yeah.
And Bert Auburn is at a point now where.
Do you think it's a mental thing with Bert at this point?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too.
Absolutely.
Oh, there's no doubt. When you clank 38, 38, the 48-yarder and catch you were talking about Sark's play calling. I did not like the fact that first missed kick was on 4th and 10 from 48 yards away. He felt like John Harbaugh trusting Tucker in his prime in that moment. And I'm like, you need yards here to make that more comfy. But to your point, it's mental when you clank a 38-yarder. That's got to be
at
automatic.
A point with Auburn where the most mainstream Texas fan knows, oh, you can't have him kick it on the right hash mark. Like, we're at a point where your
they tried to change that on
has to be protected from a hash mark.
Right. But did they go middle on the second one or left?
Well, they did. But I mean, when you start having to, your kicker has a mental problem.
Yeah. Okay.
When everybody in the building knows your kicker has a problem. And it's got to the point now where, like, I don't think you can trust him anywhere. I'll be honest. When it was 14-0 or 14-3 and Texas goes up 17-3 early on, it was a 3rd and goal from the 4, and they threw a low percentage pass in the corner of the end zone that didn't work. And they kicked the field goal to go up 17-3. I didn't even write this in my column. It's just something that I thought of during the game. I thought they should have run the ball twice, or at least run the ball on 3rd down and get yourself into a situation where maybe it's 2 yards or less, at which point you're going for it, because, the analytics already say that if you get down that deep, that the touchdown's already the play more times than not. I thought the play calling, the way that it unfolded, they weren't going to go for it on 4th and goal from the 4. Chad, you probably felt like, and I didn't think it was a bad idea to take the points. That's not what I'm saying. My thought was the play calling in that sequence where they threw it on 3rd and left themselves 4th and goal from the 4. I didn't even trust Auburn then on what would have been a 21-yard field goal. So I was like, do what you got to do to not run the kicker out onto the field. Man, when you're 2 games shy of a national championship, that's not quite the same thing as you called walk-ons out and had like tryouts at the position, but it's not far from it. Like there's nothing that they can say that's going to convince us that Bert Auburn is a guy that they trust in a big moment next weekend. They'll say they do, and they'll say all of the things, but we know by now, and it's too late in the season, I think, to totally salvage it.
Still got over 20 super chats. We appreciate you guys. Almost 2,300 of you in the Specs chat. Let's throw the hammer at you. Angry Hammer, $50. Water under the bridge, but Scadaboo's first overtime touchdown was illegal, helping the runner, anywho, survive and advance onto Jerry World, LFG Longhorns.
Is that illegal in college? I mean, I see it all the time, I feel like.
Hammer, I didn't think of it. He might be right, though. You are allowed to
push.
No. Remember, you are allowed to push. You're not allowed to pull. Go back and look. If the offensive,
isn't that the rule that originated after the Bush push?
That's correct. Once the Bush push thing happens, we have what we have now in pro and college. You can push, but you can't pull. Go back and look. If that offensive lineman grabs him from like the 1 or 2 and pulls toward the end zone, that is illegal.
You know what? Michael Taft might not have finished the game on the field, and maybe that game doesn't go to overtime. So I think the officiating evened itself out.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Catch, earlier on that one, your quick gut. Did you think that was going to be targeting?
The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that's not targeting. You got to let a guy be a football player.
Right.
Then every time I watched it after the first time, I thought, oh, well, maybe they won't review it. Maybe it's – but the moment it went to review, I was like, oh, well, they got to call that. I mean – It was technically a defenseless receiver, and he was like helmet to helmet there. Like, I thought it was going to get called.
It doesn't matter that the ball's tipped. I know that matters for interference, but I don't think on targeting, right?
Yeah, for target, the targeting can still happen. That was obviously
at that point it can't be pass interference. So had they tackled the guy after the ball was tipped, nothing would have been called.
Yep.
I thought Texas was very fortunate. And now look.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that Arizona State then gets another 20 yards, gets into field goal position for a place kicker they don't trust either. So it doesn't mean that they absolutely would have won the game, but it changes everything about the final minute of that game. It would have given them a first down around midfield.
You get why Dillingham was upset. We all get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know why he was fiery.
And if I was an Arizona State fan, I would feel like that call cost us the game. Even though I know
right.
Arizona State's Matt Berry's walking around knowing I don't trust our kicker from 30 any more than Texas fans trust Bert Auburn from 40. So
24-0 Ohio. 23 with PAT
wow,
pending.
how about that? Ohio State really laying it on Oregon. $10 super chat from D. Sark needs to fire himself as OC. Sorry, but too much on his plate. Yeah, D, that is not going to happen. Steve Sarkeesian is going to call offensive plays for this team. $4.99, just one in the old in the hopper from Attila's War Pig. What up, Attila? Hope you're having a good one. $5 super.
I'm glad Attila sent $4.99 just so that you could read that handle.
Yeah, Attila's War Pig is just awesome. That needs to be like my new screen name. Trent with a $5. Please say Auburn will not be on the team next year. What has happened to Manny Muhammad? Neither guy obviously had a great day today there with those two.
Will Howard, guys. Sorry, I know. A couple of minutes into the second quarter, 9 for 14, 255 yards, 3 touchdowns. Texas better buckle up. He's getting hot at the right time.
My goodness.
Well, look, I wrote in my 10 thoughts from the weekend, but we've had this conversation. Who should Texas fans be rooting for in this game?
Yeah.
And I eventually have come around strongly that you want to play Oregon more than you want to play Ohio State, because I felt like Ohio State's apex is maybe the highest of any team in college football, and maybe we're seeing that tonight. I mean, wow.
He's averaging 18.2 yards an attempt, 3 touchdowns on 3.
That is crazy.
A touchdown every 3 completions.
Somebody asked me, Catch, at the watch party. They asked me that very question. Who do you think Texas matches up better against? And I said, easily, yeah. I said, if I'm a Texas fan, I'd rather play Oregon. And Ohio State is kind of showing why. Thank you, Trent, for that comment. Obviously, Bert Auburn and Muhammad.
And real quick, Chad.
Did not have.
I didn't think about Oregon at all today during the game, because I got to be honest, man, I was a little freaked out about, if Texas loses this game, I'm going to come on this show and say, hey, man, Texas had a good season, but it ends up being a disappointing season, not a successful season. Sure.
Yeah, it wouldn't have hit the bar, no doubt.
And Oregon, look, if this holds up, they're going to be the poster boy for what we've been talking about, which is if you get in and then lose early, it's going to become a thing. And now Dan Lanning will be the guy that, like, hey, guy ran the table, won the Big Ten, then gets into the playoffs and lays an egg. And, like, that becomes, boy, if you don't get over a certain bar, then suddenly you've got – it's a little bit like what Ryan Day – we've even talked that, like, Ryan Day could lose today and maybe lose his job, and now they're up 20 – and maybe Ryan Day wins a national championship when it's all said and done, which – hey, man, college football, it's a weird thing.
By the way, fellas, we all know what's true in this bracket. If you guys were Dan Lanning and this continues, when do you bitch about the bracket? Like, when do you – because it's going to come off as, like, real sour grapes. This is an 8-1 that we all know is not a real 8-1. When do you complain?
You got screwed. They did, but you can't say
that
after
the national championship game, guys, and Ohio State's winning it 24-0. Like,
you can't say that in the post-game press conference. Okay, we got the shit kicked out of us, but we got screwed in seating.
No, I agree. You probably got to wait, and maybe you just call the CFP committee and say, I'm not griping in public, but I'm going to read you a new one. Please understand this. Yep. All right. Dark Borg with 1999. Defenses are eating up our slow developing offensive plays by pinning their ears back and getting in the backfield before our pulling guards get there. Please stop, Sark. 2, I miss Dusty Mango.
There was a little bit of that where, the guard pulled and missed, I think it was early in the game, missed the block. It was slow developing. Even the throwback screen, which ended up working, but Quinn had pressure, remember? And he had to turn around real quick and throw it to, I think it was Wisner early in the game. Some of those slow developing plays against an aggressive defense, didn't always work. But
Chad, I'm going to pull this up just because it's good to hear from our guy Wes Miller, formerly
Wes?
of OB, now
Oh.
CFB. But for $50, Wes gets to go straight to the front of the line.
How about that?
For those of you complaining about Quinn, the defense, etc., just do us all a favor and take a lap. Texas loses this game 10 out of 10 over the last 13 years, and we're in the Final Four back-to-back seasons. Good for Quinn. Good for the team. On to the next.
Hey, you know what, Wes? I'll say this. As the third-party observer I always am for a Texas game, the moment Scadaboo caught that ball and came up with the snarl on his face, this voice in my head said, oh, my God, they're going to lose this game. Arizona State's going to figure out a way to win this game. And that feeling didn't go away until 4th and 13. Because the moment that play happened, I thought, oh, my God, Quinn's going to dig them out of this thing. So
it didn't even go away for me until the 2-point conversion.
It didn't go away for me until Makuba's interception.
Makuba did it for you? Right.
But, you know, like I said, I think, Chad, I said this to you, and I put it in my post. I said, when Arizona State got rolling in the third quarter, Texas was still winning. But I said, hey, this is dangerous. This Texas defense has been on the field a long time against this guy. And he's going to, in the fourth quarter, which ironically, he started puking his guts out, and guy's probably got an IV in him right now. But I was like, this is not setting up well for Texas, because this defense is going to run out of gas, and this guy is not the player you want to run out of gas against. And, defense bowed up. And as soon as I wrote that in my notes, defense got 3 consecutive tackles for losses on 3 consecutive plays, forced the field goal.
There you go. Yeah, no, there were big moments in this game where that defense stood up when they needed to.
I want to say this. I know Manny Muhammad, I bashed on him, and I know people in the chat have a little bit. He did have a nice play in the end zone in overtime, right? Now, they ended up scoring anyways on that drive, didn't they?
The diving.
Well, the one
deflection.
Where I thought maybe almost intercepted it.
That one. No, that was a good play, too. Plus,
but they ended up scoring. Arizona State did end up scoring.
He was also that dive in the end zone, knocking the ball away.
Was
I
that
think.
him?
Yeah. So, I mean, there were.
Yeah. So,
you know what? This
Here's
was
the thing. He is the guy. We're now learning. This is back-to-back weeks. You got to pick your poison, and the poison is 5.
Yeah, I know who Ohio State will throw the ball at.
Yes.
We all know, right? That's going to go after him in a big way. James with a 1999 Golden is him. You mentioned it, Jason. I know while we were watching the game, as we were getting ready for this post game, you said, where would they be without that dude? Let's take a second for Matthew Golden, because my goodness, that connection today was the ball game for Texas.
7 for 149, has the big touchdown there on 4th and 13, right? Has the big play to start the game, first play out of the gates for Texas. So, Isaiah Bond clearly is, I was surprised he played today in hindsight. I mean, he didn't have his first target till like midway through the third quarter. Now, they ended up throwing to him a couple times deep. None of them are connections. One's intercepted. He's just not what he once was. Okay, maybe he can get there 10 days from now. I don't know. I'd be a little bit surprised. But Matthew Golden has really stepped up. And seriously, where would this offense and where would this team be without Matthew Golden the last month and a half?
Yeah, catch those out routes, the shorter stuff. Obviously, the 4th and 13 was to him. And then 2 of those 3 guys out of the portal, Bolden with a huge punt return, which is the energy of the beginning of this game. And then Golden with everything that he did, man, both those guys just had monster games.
Hey, how about Prince Dorba, Troy O'Meary, and Xavier Alford making plays? That was, I don't have any ill will against those guys. They weren't cutting it at Texas. They went somewhere else. I'm like, hey, I hope they find success. And those 3 guys, they each made plays in this game. So
O'Meary made good plays.
And so, he made one bonehead play, too. Remember that catch? And then
he make that one.
Taunton, 17-yard catch turns into a
2-yard game. By the way, like, I know he does end up flipping the ball. I think it was
right in his face.
You
can't do that.
It wasn't like he did it in Barron's face. It's just that he ended up doing it in Barron's face, if that makes sense.
Catch, if the opening in Barron's face mask was big enough, I think he would have set it inside of it. Like he was trying to set it in.
Barron just got in the way, though. Like
because I don't think Barron was even
bad for O'Meary there.
I don't think Barron was even on coverage in that one, right?
I think Barron's just 2 yards over to the left.
Yeah, not good. All right, let me get to some of the bigger money down here, because I see some 20 spots. Paul with a 1999. I've been telling everyone for 2 weeks that Scadaboo was legit. If we don't figure out our third quarter issues, we will get smoked next week. But it went away. Where'd it go? right there. That was the one. Okay, sorry. But it was great being in a bar with 200 ASU fans and hearing deafening silence.
My man Paul's from Arizona.
He lives in Arizona, right? Yeah,
he's
out there.
He texted me earlier this week and he goes, "God, I hope we win this game." He's like, "Shut these obnoxious," because they basically become Texas Tech. This is what he said. Paul, I hope I'm not getting you in trouble by repeating that.
Yeah, and Paul, obviously, you're absolutely right. Not only that everybody knows that if Ohio State played like they did in the previous round, they could be dangerous, but now you're watching them start this game like this, just stomping Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Obviously, they are an extremely dangerous team. All right, let's see. Real quick, our guy Wes jumping back in with 10. Can we take a second and talk about the no OPI and the Scattaboo catch Taft face mask?
I didn't think that was that bad. The ball was underthrown, so Scattaboo had to slow down. The defender kind of runs into him, kind of inadvertently, and he kind of a little push. I get it. I could see if they would have called it, I wouldn't have had a problem, Wes, but I didn't think it was that bad. The underthrown ball. Yeah, I did. I did too, Catch. I was fine with it. The underthrown ball caused the initial contact, and then he separated a little bit. I didn't think it. I thought it was a fine no call.
When the flag got thrown live as they were running down the field, I thought they were calling OPI. But then when I saw the replay, Catch, I agree with you. That was one where maybe a little bit, but I didn't think it deserved a call. Obviously, Taft ripping his helmet off deserved a call. You got to call that.
That was one of the all-time face masks.
Oh, my gosh. Touchdown Ohio State, guys.
If you're going to get your money's worth on a face mask, grab it on the way down and then just tear it off of his head. Like, that's really
30-0 PAT pending.
Oh, Ohio State. Wow. Good grief. Back to the $20 super chats. This is from IT Mac Pro. I can't wait till Quinn is gone. Oh, good grief. I'll take a rib out just to self because I need me some Arch. Okay, Mac Pro, you'll get there. You'll get your Arch Manning. It'll happen.
I don't get it. Today of all days, I don't understand it.
183.2 or whatever the rating was. Dartborg 1999. Wait, we got that one. We did that one already. My bad, Dartborg. How about, did we get this one from John Lynch?
No.
Or not. Okay. Feels like it happened 3 weeks ago, but shout out to Silas for a fantastic return. The non-blocked punt coverage against fakes were frustrating. Special teams needs to clean up even outside of place kicking.
I saw it, but I didn't get to focus. I didn't get to see a replay. How the hell, Catch, maybe you saw it closer than I did. Yeah. How did Texas not block that punt?
That first punt. Just went past him.
Who was that, by the way?
Through his legs or something? It was
Maurice
Blackwell. Blackwell ended up getting the roughing the punter. Yeah,
that was. It looked just like, I did go see the replay of it, but there was one of those in the A&M USC bowl game where the Aggies did the same thing.
It's very similar, Chad.
Didn't it remind you of that play where you're like, how did he not block that punt? How did the ball get?
I thought he was going to take it off his foot and just take off running.
It turns out that you can, block a punt to such an extent that you can overblock it and not block it.
Yeah, you almost got there too early. Yeah,
in the last week.
Yeah.
You're allowed to block the ball and the man. You're not allowed to block just the man by running past the ball. Like
before he kicks it.
Right.
Isn't that just tackling him? If he hasn't kicked it yet, you're just tackling the guy.
You got to go find the ball at that point. John, we appreciate that super chat. Here's a 50 from the Hammer. How about another milestone for the program to confirm blue blood status? Texas is the first team to win all New Year's Six. Oh, that's right. New Year's Six bowl games. Yeah. Point 2. Even though this was the quarterfinals, losing to ASU would have been an unsatisfactory. I don't see the rest of it. Unsatisfactory season. Okay. It would have.
I agree.
We've stated that one, Angry Hammer, a couple times, and that is certainly a little feather in the cap of Texas to get.
It's why the win's so big, man. You can't ignore the stakes.
And we all understand that through the years, you have different ties to different bowls. Sometimes you get to. Texas got to take advantage of playing in the Rose Bowl in a back-to-back in an era when Texas didn't get to play in the Rose Bowl normally, but then it becomes a championship game and, stuff like that. So that is a very cool stat for Texas, Hammer. You are right. And, a very important win for Texas because it does get them now into the semifinals.
Hey man, good thing that Texas isn't playing Ohio State this week.
Ooh. Ohio State's getting it out, all the good mojo out of its system this week, and maybe they'll be not hitting their stride.
2 weeks in a row, Jason.
That's true.
That's true. It's like now they're due for a sloppy performance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know what they say? Nobody ever plays 3 games in a row real good in the playoffs. That's the old saying.
Never happened, right?
It's never, ever happened. Ohio State looks like a truck right now.
It'll be funny if the 8 seed wins the national championship in the first year of the playoff.
And hey, who was the first 4 seed to win it? They were. And they'd be and obviously we know they're not an 8 seed, but still that expanded version, yeah, that would just be fitting and poetic. $9.99 from Oscar. Special teams is the real issue. No one wants to blame. Oh no, we talked about it. He put us in field goal range and won the game. 510 yards, fake punts, missed kicks. This team loses without Quinn. There is no doubt about that. Like, I don't think anybody can argue that point. If number 3 doesn't step up and have the game he had, what's the final score of this game, Catch?
Well, it would have ended up being
30. It would have stopped
again, if Bolden doesn't have a punt return.
31 to 24.
31-24.
If Bolden doesn't have a punt return, does Texas win this game? So, I mean, special teams had their miscues.
That's true.
They also had a big play.
Well, the offense was not good in this game. Like, it wasn't.
Not throughout. You're right. Not throughout the game. Right. You can't go 1.8 per rush and get all A's.
And Quinn Ewers wasn't. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't good for large stretches of this game. You can't say a guy's good and the offense isn't scoring points, and he's barely even getting pass attempts. I think it was it 1 in the third quarter? I think he threw the ball. I think they threw the ball 1 time in the third quarter. He was 1 for 1 for 9 yards. He threw that ball to either Jaden Blue, I think maybe for like a 9-yard pickup right before the third quarter ended. But in the end, like we say it all the time in a ton of shows that we do, Chad. The end of the game stuff is like how guys get remembered.
Yeah.
In every sport.
Yeah. The moment Scadaboo throws that pass, we could argue the catch too. I thought though the moment he threw it, it became a just win the game. It's not about it wasn't about style points at that moment. It wasn't about how does it feel and look. It was about, well, dadgummit, now you let them back in. Now it's 1 score, especially after they convert the 2-point. It's like, okay, at 24-16, that's you just got to win at all costs.
If Quinn doesn't complete the 4th and 13, nobody remembers this as a game that he plays well in.
No.
Everybody would have focused on the fact that the offense only scored 17 points in 4 quarters going into overtime. They would have pointed out that, the offense really bogs down except for one outside of
the haters would have been the haters there, Catch. I would have still defended Quinn to a degree there because at that moment, if that ball hits the turf, he has still set that team up twice to win the ball game.
I agree with you.
And he's made big
but
throws.
We wouldn't have said that the totality of the offensive performance. I think everybody on offense would have caught strays. I mean, we almost lived in a world where Kelvin Banks's second to last play as a college player was a false start.
I was looking down. Jason said Kelvin Banks, and I thought, why is he saying Kelvin Banks' name?
Cole Hudson came in on that last drive, the one that ends with the second missed field goal, and he commits 2 penalties on that drive. And it's like, if you're going to come in for DJ Campbell on the most important offensive possession of the season, don't commit penalties. We saw Gooseby have one as well. There was a whole bunch of mess in this game. And we are officially over an hour into the post gamer. We haven't really talked about any of it to any real extent. Look, this is also one of the truths about today. While we've all focused on the positive, and I think rightfully so. I mean, I almost refuse to focus too much on the negative. Nobody's going to pick Texas to beat Ohio State next week. That is not what Texas has been doing. And after seeing Ohio State for the last 2 weeks, they'll probably go in like as a 4-point favorite, something like that. I think I'd seen they were going to be a 1.5-point favorite per a projected line a day ago. But the way Ohio State's playing right now, it feels like a whole bunch of early money would come on the Buckeyes if it's under 2 points.
Nobody's picking. Yeah, I don't think anybody's picking them at all to lose against anybody that's still left in this playoff. Half the people I know would pick them to beat the Browns tomorrow.
For Texas, you don't have to apologize for winning this game. But we all know what it is. And, I just I think either we're going to see Texas finally have the performance that, quite frankly, we've waited all season for it to have, or the season ends next Friday. And if that happens and they just lose to a better team, then that happens sometimes. They've officially met the bar. Now, can they go beyond that? It's just going to take a performance that is significantly higher than anything that we've seen from Texas outside of that Florida game, which comes with an asterisk. We really haven't seen Texas. We have not seen Texas do what Ohio State is doing right now. And the thing that you would say about Ohio State is, well, we literally saw them do this a week ago in the playoffs against Tennessee. So they're now officially the hottest team in college football, and the team that nobody would want to play. Yeah. It's going to take Texas. Texas can beat Ohio State, but every player on that team in all three phases has to be better than I think we've seen over the totality of the last 10 weeks or so.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, fellas. Message to the CFP. Every 10 years when you expand, don't let Ohio State in. 2014, 2024. Don't let a dangerous Ohio State
Ohio
team.
State did lose to Michigan. They're beatable, but you're right. I mean, listen, I get it. We're basing off what we're seeing today. Ohio State's the clear favorite, but that can change from week to week.
It can, no. And they
Catch kind of jokingly said it. Maybe Ohio State's due for an off week next week.
And they have played low-scoring, clunky games with Nebraska this year. I mean, this is why you play it out, man. It's what a real playoff is about. It's about real, actual football.
Well, and they're earning it too, right? I mean,
they're earning it, and just like Texas earned their win too. Survive in advance.
Go
Figure it out.
On a neutral field in the freaking Rose Bowl, and if they win, they win. You got to give them their love.
Yeah, no doubt. Jay back in with a $10. 4th and 2 in the second. High throw on sideline to Golden, converted. Broadcast said Sark was screaming about the play call and asking why would we call that risky of a play. I'm confused. Who called the play?
Yeah, I didn't hear.
I didn't catch all that, Jay.
We don't got great audio. I didn't hear it.
Catch, you were watching with better audio maybe than we had. Did you catch any of that?
No, I know the moment that he's talking about.
That was a hell of a throw.
Yeah, that was a great ball.
And I don't know if that's how you design that play. I don't know if that's how you want it to look.
Maybe Quinn audible to that play or something. I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah,
that is just an incredible throw. And Golden also should be getting credit for the catches he did make today.
I did not think that was a great throw. I thought that was a great catch. And in real time.
We're talking about the same one where Golden had to go up and catch.
Right.
Oh, disagree.
The announcers were acting like that's how you want to do it every time.
No, I wouldn't make that argument.
The difficulty on that particular play was insanely high.
Yeah.
And it was really at that moment where I was like, Matthew Golden, you have my permission to go pro.
I'm telling you. Well, Catch, how about the one down the sideline? How about the one down that right sideline that reminded me of the Eli Manning to Mario Manningham play in the Super Bowl? Like, he's got to go all the way over to catch. That was a hell of a catch from Golden.
No, he's really emerged as a historically important player. Like, whatever ends up we end up saying about this team, we wouldn't say it without Matthew Golden. He's just been, one of the real stars of this season. Once you get beyond the Banks and the Barons, and maybe an Anthony Hill or a Colin Simmons, and maybe you don't even have to go that deep. I think Matthew Golden is in the conversation for team MVP as much as anybody on the roster.
All right, speaking of stars, we've got our guy ready to go from Atlanta. It is Anwar Richardson, and it is, of course, the post-game show brought to you by the Lowy Law Firm. Thanks to almost 2,500 of you hanging with us on the Specs chat right now. Anwar Richardson, sharp-dressed man in a press box. How are you, sir?
Doing good. I got one of my new Christmas gifts on. It's got these sweaters with these.
You got a sweater with the grandpa elbows. I like it. That's what I'm talking about.
I think Catch sweaters like that as well.
I was gonna say you and Catch. You and Ketch look comfy in this
It's cold.
post game.
He's got a nice shirt on. I'm wearing my free Rivals shirt that they gave me for free.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah,
Hey, I almost had a Rivals shirt on, and then it occurred to me that Jason and I could be wearing the same shirt, and so I changed.
That's all right.
There you go. Good move. Good move on the fly. All right, Anwar, let's go to Steve Sarkeesian after the game. What was said about a wild 39-31 double overtime win?
Well, I mean, he starts obviously with stating the obvious, right? Which is it wasn't really their cleanest game. As for what the things that they wanted to do, he kind of described it as a March Madness basketball game. Is kind of the way is probably a good way to view it. And then he kind of, it goes into what Sark does, which is, we've done these post-game shows all year long. He feels like when their back is against the wall, they find a way to respond. And he said, there's plenty of things that they definitely want to clean up. But, he was still pretty happy that when it was all said and done and the pressure was on, that they were able to, get some of the fourth down stops, the red zone stops, and then really praising those throws that Quinn made. That fourth, and was it 13 or 15? I think 13. He said 15, but it was 13.
Yeah.
He said that, Quinn was the guy that changed the protection on that play to get a max protection on there. And he kind of said that, so that, he praised Quinn for being able to recognize it. He said they actually had been practicing that play against that specific Arizona State defense throughout practice, throughout that week. They kind of were practicing fourth and long. It had just so happened when it was that time, they ran the same exact defense. That's what Quinn went into the max protection, and then they were able to score from there. And then he said, after that, he said he just felt like he needed Quinn to win, and he felt like they, as much as he would have loved to just try to run the ball, he felt like he needed to pass the ball and he needed to be aggressive. And so that's why he said that when he comes out, he hits that play with, Gunner, boom. And then he said like he wanted to stay aggressive. And so he decides to go for a 2-point conversion. Again, he said he felt like Quinn could be the guy that led them to a victory. And he just had that faith in him. And so he said, of course, they go for the 2-point conversion. So he said he was extremely happy from the quarterback perspective and the quarterback performance that he was able to get kind of in those clutch moments. They basically, they talked about, Scatterboo basically being as good as advertised, maybe even a little bit better. But yes, he was all that. As all those guys kind of gave him his props, and he ended up actually being the offensive MVP. I kind of joined the tail end of that press conference. And, sometimes when you're at these games and Jason, this because you'll cover some of these all-star games, they'll do the MVP votings in the fourth quarter, right? The game's not over. And so anyway, by the time the fourth quarter started, like people had already voted for him. He still ends up deserving it. Like no one's going to look at that and say, well, that's whatever. But he ends up getting that toward the end of the press conference that they had. But they definitely a praise for him, definitely a praise for Arizona State kind of coming through, definitely not being happy with the penalties that occurred. But of course, no one asked him at that time about the field goal stuff or anything to that effect. So that didn't come up. But to your point about like Matthew, Golden, that you guys were just talking about, they talked about, Sark talked about how good of a rapport that Quinn and him have, and that the trust that they've had, and how that thing has kind of grown throughout. And I agree with what you guys say as far as him being, such a valuable asset. And I'm trying to go through some of my notes here of other things that were said. Now someone asked him about overtimes and things like that, and if he learned anything from the Georgia overtime as relates to this overtime, because obviously they've been in 2 overtime games here. And again, he started talking about just that mentality of trying to stay aggressive. And he jokingly said, well, if he had an overtime versus Georgia and a 2 overtime here, he'll take a 3 overtime game in a national championship game in Atlanta if that's what it takes to pull out a victory. Outside of that, I think those were kind of the basics of it. There were some questions for the players that I don't think there was anything too crazy there. And of course, obviously the praise for Makuba and him being able to do what he did as well. So I think those were the kind of highlights of Sarkeesian in his press conference. No real mentions of injuries or anything to that effect. But of course, knowing Sark the way we all do, Sark will never apologize for an ugly win. And he'll keep taking it. And God dang, I didn't know that Oregon was getting their asses kicked like this. My goodness.
Anwar, it has been just the hammer from the beginning. When we sat down, it was already 7-0 Ohio State within 3 minutes or whatever. And it's been getting worse. Ketch, you got something for Anwar?
Yeah, Anwar, I'm just kind of curious. One of the things that you said, I think that resonated the most was Sark saying that this was a little like March Madness. Mm-hmm. And it absolutely, at least from watching the game on television in my home, felt like that type of tension from my seat, because you're thinking there's a game, but there's also next week, like, does the season this whole experience is different than anything that college football's ever had before. And so consequently today, from a fan experience standpoint, Texas fans have experienced something today that very few people have. It's so new and early. What was it like in the building? I mean, you're there.
Yeah.
From a tension standpoint, on the biggest moments of that game, it felt like what to you in the building?
I mean, felt like a video game in some ways. Like, it just as far as the atmosphere in the building, it was great, right? It wasn't a big crowd, right? I don't think it was a big crowd. It was a good crowd, but it wasn't a big crowd. But Arizona State had a contingency there, and they were able to make some noise. I don't know if that came through on TV or not, but there were some times that I think they were able to be really loud and effective. And Sark made this analogy, and I know sometimes it's a cliche, but it did feel sometimes like a fight, a heavyweight fight in some ways, a good heavyweight fight back in the day, not these crappy ones where guys just lean on each other. But I'm talking about like back in the day, like good fights. And, inside, like, when Texas has that lead and you're just thinking to yourself, all right, this is just going to be over. And then that Arizona State has a way to come back. Texas plays its part in that as well. Like, Texas is very fortunate when we look at this game. I mean, there's when that Quinn interception with about like 5 minutes left, 6 minutes left, whatever that time frame is. I mean, you can tell yourself that you probably don't even need to call a pass play, let alone a deep pass play at that point that helps to kind of put them back inside of it. And then you see, I mean, Scataboo's throwing a touchdown. Like, it's just like, it's an incredible thing. You felt the momentum swing. You knew, you guys have known, I have been so annoyed with the kicking situation all year long. I've been annoyed with it, and I've been annoyed that they have 2 scholarship kickers and they have nothing to absolutely show for it. And, I knew, even when Quinn was on that final play, moving to make it even easier for Bert Auburn in the dome, no win, perfect circumstances, they're probably going to miss, right? And so you just go into overtime, and at that point, I don't know what to expect. And then again, it took that 4th down. I mean, that play saves the season. I mean, that is the season defining play. And I find myself thinking, one, it was a hell of a game, great theater for absolute certainty. The atmosphere was great. The post game stuff was great as well, and just seeing it. But I tell you, from a personal standpoint, Catch, I just feel like we have seen it may not be the exact ending, but we have seen this from this Texas team all year long, where you're watching the game and you're like, what the hell is going on? What is this? Like this, how's this team going to win? Like how's this even possible? And just week after week after week, it just somehow they do. I told you, Catch, I've used this analogy before, but it's watching this team is like watching the A team. It is just they start off on the mission and then they go into all this chaos, right? And everything's just all just crazy, right? And you got to like drug up Mr. T, BA, just to get him on the plane, right? He's like, I ain't getting on no plane, right? And then all of a sudden he's on the plane and all these things that happen. And then it's just like Steve Sarkeesian, like putting his feet up, and just smoking a cigar and saying, I love it when a plan comes together. You're like, what? And then you do it again next Friday night or next Saturday. Like, this is just it. We just see it. Like, I'm at the point where it doesn't have to make sense. Like, I'm past the point of trying to make it make sense. It just is what it is. So somehow, some way, they may be just destined. Like they may just be a team of destiny that it just doesn't matter. It does no as much as they tried to give away this game today. As many opportunities as they've tried to give it away, not on special teams, some of the play calling, some defensive stuff, like all kinds of things. I mean, you have a call of Michael Taft that's probably targeting, but doesn't get called, right? There's just so many little things that happen where I just walk away saying, well, yep, that sounds like Texas. Like I don't know how it's gonna. I don't know how the specific score is going to be. But if you tell me you're going to watch the game and not understand how the hell they're going to win, but they're going to win anyway and have 13 of them, yep, that sounds like Texas to me. And they may do it 2 more times.
Anwar, if you're not comfortable with the song lyric idea for the next press conference, maybe you could be like Mr. T guy. And when you ask a question of Sark, you preface with like a setup of Clubber Lang from Rocky 3 or a little B.A. Baracus.
Yeah, I'm good on people critiquing my questions for Sark for a little while. So I'm gonna leave that to Terry Middleton. I don't want to step on his territory. I think Terry. Well, I'm hoping this week he spends prepping, reading a good book, and getting an analogy set. I will say this. I sat next to Terry today, and I told him I was a little disappointed in his question the other day because I felt like you started to take us on a roller coaster, but you let us off really too early. And he told me he did admit that he wasn't quite sure if he can do it in that setting. I was like, no, you got to be you, Terry. Like, you got to be to you. Cord. So he did tell me that if Texas does go to the national championship game, that has a question that will blow away any question he's ever asked, that he already has it prepared.
He's already thinking like 3 weeks ahead.
He's been thinking about it weeks ago.
That is excellent.
And I am here for it.
Is Terry a beer drinker? I want to hang out with that dude.
Yeah,
I want to buy that guy a beer.
I want to hang out with him too and talk some stuff. By
He's
the way,
got a wife and kids. Like,
well, so do I.
I want to hear Anwar on Monday with like a Sark. I pity the fool who asked you a hypothetical.
Anwar, you were mentioning little things in this game, the little bits and pieces. ATX Bates throws in for $4.99. Overlook point. Quinn recovering the end zone fumble saves 5 points. Even with others are fumbling, Quinn was saving the team, yet people hate. He really was swallowed up.
That was a good play.
By that play.
It did bounce right into his hands.
It did. I know, but you and I wanted him to scramble and try to throw the ball away. But when you watch the replay, he did get kind of trapped there. That was a lucky bounce in a way.
The man did it in overtime. Yeah. He does not need us to fabricate. And Quinn was out here saving the team. He recovered a ball and popped into his hands. Yes, he did. You know what he did? He completed 4th and 13. He completed a touchdown after that. He completed the 2-point conversion after that. And by the way, in the 4th quarter, he should have got a game-winning drive that ended in a field goal. Like, you know what? Yeah. We don't have to pat Quinn on the head like he deserves a participation medal.
Okay, fair enough.
He's the hero of the game today. It is his new legacy moment
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of thing that was going to be said if they lost. Quinn played really well. Remember that time when he recovered a fumble and saved us 5? Stop.
Okay. All right.
It was a heads up play. He didn't make it worse, but he also didn't do the single smartest thing that he could do. Like, there were several options, one of which was throw the ball and maybe don't take a safety. But, like, how do you tell the guy? It's easy to say that on the couch.
Yeah, exactly. You're
right.
right.
At that point,
we're watching the replays.
At that point, it's just a different. It would have been a different.
Never done this before in any simulated football game ever, but maybe you should have thrown the ball away. No, but like I think the cool thing about Quinn today is that was his Jimmy Chitwood "I'll make it" moment. I can't state it enough, man. 4th and 13, and Kelvin Banks jumps off sides, and you're like, from 4th and 8 to 4th and 13, you're like, Jesus, man, it's going to end right now.
Yep.
And their season's going to be a disappointment. And we're going to have to say it. We're going to have to say they didn't go as far as everybody said they had to get. And that even though this was a good season, it's really not good enough. It's not where they were setting the bar. And then Quinn made one of the great plays in Texas football history. Like, to me, save all of the things about Quinn that don't include he made a couple of the biggest plays in Texas football history, because that's in 20 years from now, what we will be talking about is 4th and 13 and that conversion, and not good or bad, anything that happened during the course of the offense only scoring 17 points in the first 4 quarters of the game. He stepped up when it mattered most. That's what we want from our quarterbacks. That's what makes guys great, is to do that then. And so,
all right, Bates.
And to piggyback that too, Catch, hold on 1 second, Chad. Just to piggyback that performance should be enough where some national person decides to put another story out this week about Quinn potentially transferring to another college. Somebody can poo-poo that and say, why? Okay, like why? Like that's what there's going to be a GM that sees that.
I'll give you 6 million reasons why.
He's not broke. He is not broke. I don't know if you know this, but he's been making money for a few years. Okay, this is a kid
he's making $6 million in 1 year though. But
okay, the goal is to go to the NFL. I think we know this family's.
He's going to the NFL regardless.
Okay, then he's going to go this year. He's going to go this year. He's going to
go make $6 million and then go to the NFL. But whatever.
No, because he's not an idiot. Because you play out, you get out while you can. He's got 2 quarterbacks that'll be ranked ahead of him. It's probably Shador and Cam, and there's nobody else. It's not a crowded quarterback, room. There's all the guys who are going.
Pro scouts who are saying he needs another year of college. Why not get it?
Who?
Why not?
Who?
Well,
no, that's bullshit. That's bull. That is absolute
no. All your draft pundits.
No, that is absolute bullshit.
Well, then your opinion is different than theirs.
Now, my opinion is more informed than theirs because I've done the NFL, and I can tell you.
So have they? That's what they do.
But they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and I do. Okay. And here's why I know what I'm talking about, because how the NFL draft process goes is this. What all the people are talking are area scouts and regional scouts. You don't get into the nuts and bolts of the analyzation until after the season when because teams are active. Coaches aren't looking at college film right now. They're focused on that. GMs those people. I'm telling you, the people who are talking are regional scouts. I can tell you this.
You're saying they're getting their information from regional scouts?
The people who talk now are regional scouts. The rubber does not meet the road for a real true
and you don't think
analysis.
Hold on. Cover the draft.
Let me finish one sentence. Let me finish 5 sentences. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm only a Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, right? Okay. I guess I maybe or may not know a few things about the league. Maybe. So maybe what happens is when the season is over That's when GMs and coaches sit down, and that's when they work on their draft board. You don't have a true draft board until about the end of January. That's when teams actually know. Everything else is a regional scout who's taking notes and who's providing some information. That's their opinion, but it doesn't matter, because when the coach decides to look at the film, if the coach says that's who I want, that's who I'm going to get. But the problem is coach is working on getting ready for Sundays. The true analysis doesn't happen until after season. That's why I've always said you got to ignore what you're hearing now. As a guy who covered the NFL for a number of years, as a guy who has seen the draft boards, as a guy who's had it explained to me, and as a guy who's tons of GMs, I'm telling you, they're just putting shit out there for information, for like clicks. It's not true. They're lying.
You don't think the offers for him to go play somewhere are true? And I know we'll get back to the game. If someone's offering him his $6 million on Oregon, he can go to Oregon and play. Hey, it's worked for the last two quarterbacks who went to Oregon, and improve his draft stock while making $6 million in 1 year. He'd be crazy not to do it.
How much more is it going to be improved? He might be the third guy taken.
It might be third round, be the third guy taken. Doesn't
he might
mean he's
be the
first
third
round
guy. After Shedeur or Cam Ward, who else do you stand on the table for?
Well, that doesn't mean he's going to be a first round.
No. I'm just asking though. Who else after those two?
I don't
you stand
on
the table for
Quinn either.
Okay, well there you go. It's all
he
even.
might be the third quarterback taken, but he might be a third round draft pick.
He goes to Oregon. Your third quarterback's never taken in the third round.
I mean, nowadays
the third quarterback taken in the draft is never in the third round.
Okay, fine, mid second.
That's late
mid-second, maybe.
That's late first, early second.
Nah,
Look at any draft, Jason. Come on now, stop. You usually have multiple quarterbacks taken in the first round. You have two that are usually taken within like the top 10 or so, and then you have some that is spliced out. But at the end of the day, Quinn's goal, we've covered this guy.
He's going to accomplish that goal no matter what.
Don't ignore what you've seen your entire career. Quinn's goal has always been to go to the NFL.
He's going no matter what.
His goal, did he skip his senior season of high school with the goal of getting to the NFL faster
next year? He's going to the NFL regardless.
Did he skip his senior year of high school to get to the NFL faster? Correct? Yes or no?
I would assume that's a big part of the reason,
that's
and also because he was a year older than most seniors his age.
But last year was supposed to be his last year in college, and it didn't happen. Right?
He wasn't good enough.
So his goal, correct? Right? So
he hadn't been much better this year. It's great today. I don't want to.
But
we can argue this on your show on Tuesday.
There's last year's draft class doesn't compare to this year's quarterback draft class. You didn't have a real legit quarterback competing for the Heisman.
Yeah, but you're basing it all on the quarterback draft.
Your best two players were running back.
$6 million.
How many times have your best players? How many times have your best players going into a Heisman race been a running back and a receiver / DB, and not even a quarterback?
Not all.
You usually hand it off to a quarterback. It's not a strong quarterback draft class, and that's why it's
that doesn't trump $6 million for 1 year.
$6 million when your goal is to go pro means nothing.
You're going pro, and you got $6 million.
No, you're not. Not if you get hurt. How often does he get hurt every year?
He's still going pro.
Does he get? Oh, he's going. You don't think his draft stock is worse if he comes back to college and goes to Oregon and gets hurt and misses half the season?
3 years in a row at Texas has been here.
We
got to be out of here at 6:30 so they can have their equipment. We got a lot of super chats.
I'm just trying to.
For the record, make sure
you're checking out. Jason, you don't get to provoke that whole thing for the last 10 minutes, and then
Anwar's wrong. I'm right.
And say,
I bet if.
Hey, now we got to get
You're right. You're right.
On Orange Blood, so everybody would agree with me.
There's nobody.
Although that doesn't. I don't know if that says a lot.
There's no one with logic that would agree with you.
Okay,
totally.
If you haven't checked out the old fashioned on Tuesdays at 9 a.m.,
I guess it's a waste. I guess all those years of covering the NFL were such a waste of time.
I
guess you don't know shit about recruiting either.
Doesn't make you a draft expert because you covered the NFL.
It makes me smarter than you.
Okay. Well, you got a lot of people who cover the draft, not the NFL. The draft for a living say he should go back to college.
They don't get it wrong. They get Mel Kiper doesn't get it wrong.
I think Mel Kiper knows more about the draft than you do.
We're going back in.
No, get out of here.
We were almost out.
Tom
McShay. When I think I'm out,
they bring me back in
as I do. Trust me.
Okay.
Wow. Happy New Year, Catch. Over almost 2,700 of you in the Specs chat. We do have some super chats to go through. Before we do that, Anwar, any of your own personal thoughts on the game you want to get out before we hit some super chats?
No, I mean, I thought it was a good game. First of all, just an exciting game. When Sark says stuff like you can win in many different ways, and this team has a way to win in many different ways, they showed that, we saw something that we hadn't seen, which is like a team that was actually able to run the ball effectively against them. And, he didn't start off that way, but he basically got stronger as the game went along. This defense, you can tell that the defense started getting tired, and you can tell the defensive line was starting to wear down. We hadn't really seen that defensive line start to wear down. And that quarterback's good. That quarterback is, the numbers won't show, but Levitt really kept them in this game by his play, by extending drives and just extending plays with his leg. When he was, when he could get out the pocket, it's like the first half when they spent trying to have plays develop, you could see it wasn't going anywhere. And then it's like in the second half, they realized, okay, get him out the pocket as much as possible, use him as a threat, keep them on their feet. And so they were able, I thought, to really come across with a really effective game plan. But again, Texas finds a way to win. Quinn plays well. Golden plays well. Makuba just continues doing Makuba things. You want to talk about draft stock, but there's no argument there as far as a guy's stock who's rising because he just continues to come up, with big plays. And I think the encouraging part, if you're a Texas fan, and I'll end it with this, is that as poorly as your team played today, you still walked away with a win. It may not be pretty, but again, when you look at some of these other scores, you can see that. And the last thing I want to say is, for all the talk about sometimes, some of these teams who may not supposed to be here in the playoffs, Arizona State can at least say we deserve to be here. Like no one will look back at them the way we look at like an SMU or some of these other teams that got, just bitch slapped and say to themselves, Arizona State didn't deserve to be there. Arizona State definitely deserved to be there. If that coach, that coach is good. That coach Dillingham is really good. He's got a good program. I think he's a young and up and comer.
Anwar, to your point about the defense, here's a $10 super chat from Iggy D. The defense was great. Let's face it, they were on the field the whole game, and when that happens, cracks start to form. I don't know if great is the word I would use to describe it, but you mentioned, 38 minutes of time of possession?
Right, just under
right?
38, yeah.
When you guys consider
97 plays by Arizona State.
The safety creates a double defensive possession thing. The punt return touchdown is what you want, but it immediately sends the defense back out there. And Anwar, to your point, by the end of that game, you could see, and all those scrambles from Levitt, at the beginning, it looks great for Texas because you're getting the pressure. You're making him get out of the pocket, but how many times did they have to try to chase that dude down? And over the course of the game, it wears them out. Texas cannot, assuming it's going to be Ohio State, obviously they're killing Oregon. If it's Ohio State and Texas cannot play that type of time of possession game with the Buckeyes. You can't do that. That defense will look even more worn out if you try to do that against Ohio State.
But that's a scrappy. That Arizona State team will wear you down physically. And then when you're on the field for 97 plays, like you said, 38 minutes, I mean, you're gonna get worn down against any opponent. But that's true. When you're chasing that quarterback and tackling that running back, I mean, that's a tough team. That quarterback was good. I liked Levitt. I like watching, but like him and Scadaboo, those dudes are just scrappy. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that they're great players, but they are scrappy as hell, and they're going to give you everything they've got on every play.
97 plays is absolutely
the good part. I think the good part, and I you guys may disagree as far as I know you got to get to some super chats, but I think the good part is if you're Texas, just from my opinion, you've made it to the semifinals. I feel like even if now anything past this is great. Anything, I think if you lose this game, it's disappointing. If you get to the semis, it'd be disappointing. But you could say, like, hey, we were in the top 4. We played Ohio State. Like, there would be nothing to – unless you just get blown out the way Oregon is, I would think there's nothing to you don't hang your head in shame if for some reason next week you end up losing that game. I think getting to the semifinals is a big obstacle and a big hurdle. And I think now you could say no matter what happens next week, it's a successful season, at least in my opinion.
All right, let's hammer through some super chats here, fellas. $4.99 from Matthew. Good luck to Bert Auburn wherever he plays next year. Sure as shit not going to be Texas. Wow, Matthew. My goodness. Thank you for the super chat. We'll move on. A quick $1.99 from James. Golden is unsung hero this season. NFL loading. Yeah, we talked about him, James. What a performance he had. Just big catch after big catch. $5 super chat from Jeep Rex. Quinn 11 of 14 after the pick with the 2 touchdowns. When it was the worst, the best came out of him. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, when it was required, he made some incredible throws late in that ball game. $4.99 from Oscar. Quinn was my guy all year, and he will continue to be. There you go, Oscar. There you go,
Oscar. If he keeps winning, there's going to be a lot of people who say that, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
We'll know you meant it, but we're going to know everybody else is kind of full of shit.
This is from earlier. Troy $4.99 chipping in on Jason's new mic. It wasn't Jason's mic's fault. It was the Aggie engineer's fault. I figured it out. This is Ben $4.99. I get the moments, but are we just ignoring the play in regulation by Quinn? I don't get people bashing the D. The offense left them out there for so long. I wouldn't say it was a total bash, Ben, but when we're just looking at all aspects of it, defense did give up some big plays. But yeah, I don't know that you totally lean one way or the other there. Quinn had his moments, and then
nobody's bashing the D, not on the show. If it's happening in the chat, then it is what it is. But the defense didn't give up a touchdown in the first 3 quarters of the game. So, and they made key plays. So while some things can be better about what happened in the fourth quarter. There was a lot of good inside of that performance as well. But yeah, like next week against a better team, they'll have to be better.
Those 4th down stops, huge. Mm-hmm. I mean, the game. Where did that finish? Did it finish at 1 for 4? Is that what it was?
They were 3 for 6. Actually, they ended up having 6 of them.
Did they really? Yeah. Wow, 3 for 6.
At one point, they were 1 for 4.
It was 1 for the first 4, and those big stops, early on, and hold to the field goal once, and then there was a missed field goal, right, for Arizona State, I believe. That ends up being big as well. $4.99 from Brian. Texas almost made Big 12 dreams come true. Can you imagine? Hopefully, Quinn carries the end of game into next. What if he plays Ohio State and has his best game? I hadn't even thought of that angle yet.
Yeah, him playing against his former team.
Yeah.
I mean, he does seem to step up to the big occasions, so it wouldn't shock me if he had a great game next week, especially playing in Dallas, his hometown.
And I tell you, people keep telling – I got to go look at the stats, but I remember I mentioned this like on the Overreaction Monday, but one of the people behind the scenes tells me like stat-wise, like Quinn plays well in domes, and he just for some reason – his performances are better in domes than other areas.
And he's played in Jerry World before. That's where he played. Westlake and South Lake Carroll played.
Yep. Yeah. We'll see
what
a long
time ago. The concerning thing is next week in the biggest game of the season, they gotta if we forget about all the stuff that we're gonna praise the team for. They can't do this thing. We talked about it this week. Will there be a lull? Although I don't know if you guys can know this, but apparently someone celebrated the Texas victory with fireworks outside.
Is that what that was? I was about to ask you if it was hailing at your house.
No. Someone's got fireworks.
Happy New Year.
They can't go 30+ minutes next week where the offense just shuts down.
Yeah. Because usually you may not be able to get Ohio State to agree to those same 30 minutes to do nothing.
Well, ask Oregon how that's going today, where your offense just no-shows for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
There are things that they'll have to be better at next week. Special teams can't be a complete adventure from play to play. In the end, special teams almost gifted. They got out of jail on the second mishap, the fake punt that was converted. That is the second time in just a couple of weeks that we've seen fake punts partially converted because Maurice Blackwell was involved in not picking things up. They gave Arizona State ultimately in a game that went to overtime 3 of those points came in the first quarter when the defense gets them off the field. But then we have the running into the punter that allows them to convert a 4th and 4. So while you had the Silas Bolden punt return, and you had the blocked field goal, you had missed field goals, and you were giving them extra downs and extra series of offense because you couldn't stop from making the worst option possible to play. Every piece of this performance needs to be a little bit better next week. This was not a performance that wins you a national championship, but it was a performance that'll win you a Peach Bowl in the quarterfinals of the playoffs. And I don't think that I think that's been where the focus rightfully has been. It's a massive win. It's Sarkeesian's first bowl win at Texas because last week wasn't a bowl game. This
right.
Yeah. Technically a major bowl game. So Sark gets to put a little 1 in the resume next to his. So it's not an insignificant thing. It's Texas's first major bowl win since Ellinger and Texas against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. And that's been a while. So there's a lot of Anwar's 100% right. And Anwar, we kind of echoed each other. I said the same thing in the very beginning. This officially makes this a successful season. And what made what happened today so tense was that there's a real thin line between the season and is now an unconditional success, which I think you just have to say it is. And I think it'd be like in college basketball. Did you make the Final Four? We did. Okay, well, great year.
Yeah.
Great year.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a new thing in college football that 10 years from now, if a coach has made a Final Four 5 times, we're going to go, that's really freaking impressive. Now, he's going to need to win. Otherwise, he becomes Marv Levy and you end up getting punished for how good you are. But I just, I think today was low key really important for Texas football. And I think most of the major players in this walk away with more flowers than anything else. And I think Quinn's kind of symbolic of to the victor go the spoils. And were there questions about the offense and Quinn as this game was going into the fourth quarter? Yes. They had only scored 3 points after the first 2 plays of the game going into the fourth quarter on offense. It was an issue. But in the moments where the stress was the absolute highest, they delivered in ways that will be career defining. So, again, it was like that whole, let's give Quinn credit for this. We don't need to do that today. Quinn gets the biggest amount of credit that's humanly possible. And good for him. I think it's badass that, that guy gets to put his head on a pillow tonight and feel like, you know what? I can maybe even walk away peacefully now that maybe Anwar's right. No matter what happens now, you're playing with house money when you get to the Final Four, that at this stage of things, anything can happen. He's the first Texas quarterback with multiple playoff wins. He's the first Texas quarterback to lead the Longhorns to multiple semifinals. His resume has a lot of really good things on it. And today is the cherry on top of the sundae. This will be the way we talk about Vince and Ohio State and obviously the national championship games. But, there are, and I don't know that Quinn's had enough of these singular moments that define a career. Today was one. We will always remember the day that he threw that touchdown pass on 4th and 13 with the season on the line. Whatever happens from here, happens from here. But it's a true highlight moment in a career of a young man that's been questioned a lot and had a big answer today. Good for him. I can't stress it enough.
And Catch, to be able to do this, in addition to everything you're saying, first year in the SEC, right? So we're talking about a tougher conference, to be able to navigate. And, they've answered the question of, oh, well, what about their quality wins, right? That was, after the end of the season, it's like, well, do they really have any quality wins? Is Texas A&M kind of the best win? And you go, okay, well, they've got Clemson now, you've got Arizona State now, right? So you add that into the repertoire of, hey, a lot of question marks of what Texas would or would not be first year in the SEC. And right now, they're one of two teams surviving. And we'll see what Georgia does tomorrow, but they're one of the two teams that are actually representing a league that they just joined, so there's an alternative universe out there, and there's another program that joined this conference as well, and aren't having it's nearly on this level. There's another program in College Station, sorry Chad, that's never come close to really achieving this kind of success. So you add that all in to not only the Quinn's work, but the Texas Longhorns season. That's why I say it's successful to me, and it definitely is it's a huge success for Quinn.
Anwar, before we go into these super chats, you good time wise, or do you need to roll it?
No, because I don't have the Sunday pulpit.
Hey, can I ask you guys an Anwar question?
Yeah.
Sure.
What does this mean for Oregon? It's like this is the first time we've done this, where a 1 seed, who's the only undefeated team in the country, they're the conference champion, they're going to get eliminated in the quarterfinals of the playoffs. What does it mean for this just has never happened before, and we were one play away from having this conversation about Texas, but Texas didn't win their conference. They were the 5 seed. They certainly weren't the number 1 undefeated seed.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, before
no
it actually
great team.
happens,
No.
what do we make of this?
Yeah.
Oregon was never a great team. There's no great team in college football this year. They're running into a buzzsaw at the wrong time. Ohio State's playing phenomenal football the last couple of weeks. I just don't think yes, Oregon's undefeated, only undefeated, number 1 seed, but I never thought Oregon was a great unbeatable.
But did you think they're going to get their asses kicked
not like this
though?
No, not like this.
That's
No.
totally different.
And that's not answering the question. What does this make of their season?
I mean, to me, Catch, it's a combination of what these two guys just said. It's qualified embarrassment. It is clearly an embarrassment if they get beat like this. We qualify it by saying we could have understood if they beat you. They're not a typical 8 seed. The system needs to be reworked. They're a dump truck when they get going, but they're not supposed to do that to you. You're undefeated. You beat them in a close game. You are getting embarrassed in the granddaddy of them all. So, yeah, I think the word embarrassed will be used. There's a qualification there because of Ohio State, but it's embarrassing. You can't be the number 1 seed.
I think it's somewhat of a failure, quite honest with you.
Well, that's
You
what I'm
can't
asking. I'll
say it's a failure. Like,
no
you
shame
can't
in losing, but losing like this, yeah.
Right.
And then you get your ass. And by the way, don't forget when Michigan just beat Ohio State just a few weeks ago, and everybody thought that was just, how do you lose to Michigan? Like, they're not that good. Well, I guess Michigan is kind of decent because they beat Ohio State, and of course they beat Alabama in a bowl game. It's a failure. It's 34-8 right now. It does you no good to have done all of that all year long to then come out and get dragged like this. Like, you show that you don't belong. And so to me, that's a failure of a season. Now, it just from where your expectations should be. You should be getting your ass kicked like this.
Because by the seeding, they should get to the Final Four because you're the number 1 seed. I mean, technically, you should get to the championship game.
You should have to play Ohio State either.
But and again, that's why I say it's qualified. There's a qualification there, but there's no Oregon.
They played them earlier this year, right?
Right.
I mean, and it was a close game.
They played them at their place, and they played them close, Anwar. You're right. They played a ball game that first time. The number 1 seed can't look like this, Catch. It's embarrassing for the first number 1 seed.
There's probably no program in the country. If this were golf, and that they would be who's the number 1 golfer without a major.
Right.
That's who Oregon is. They're the program that doesn't have a national championship.
Right.
But they live in that territory. It's like they rent but don't own in a really, really nice neighborhood.
Yep.
And so there's no program, I think, in college football, but certainly in these playoffs, that we would say who has the pressure on them to win a championship the most. There's a different kind of pressure for a guy like Ryan Day or Steve Sarkeesian at Ohio State or Texas. But we're at a point with Oregon where it's like, are they going to did they win a national championship? No. Well, then I don't really want to hear anything about them. Tell me what else is new. So I think that, Dan Lanning coming out of this game, I think starting next year, there will be pressure. It's like, okay, well, he didn't win last year in the playoffs. So everything they do will be to get back into the playoffs in a year from now. And then he'll have to achieve some success, or, you'll start to see what it looks like in college football when a guy's really, 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 really good, but isn't having success in the tournament. And then that ends up being the thing that he's, I think, judged by. It's the thing about what we're watching. I don't know what it would. I hadn't been able to. Anwar, I think I even mentioned this on the show that I did with Chad yesterday. You and I were having a conversation yesterday on the phone, and kind of real innocently, it ended with like, "Hey, what if Texas lost tomorrow?" And I was just like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!"
Did you explain my reasoning for it? Remember, I said this just seems too easy.
Well, yeah.
I was like, this is too easy. Like I told Catch, I was like, something about this is just way too easy. And I use like a dating analogy, which I don't know if I can use it on this one, but in public.
We're good, Anwar. We're good.
Yeah. Well, and Anwar, I had a fan say that to me today. It was that feeling of everybody's going that way, and everybody's going with a cover, and it feels when you're rooting for that team. Sometimes it just gets uneasy. The feeling of
everyone. You guys. I know you guys love like Cody, but he was over here talking about 34-0. You're like, oh my God, Cody! I can't believe it, 34-0. You guys are talking about it all the time.
Your fault, Cody Carpentier.
By the way, if they would have lost, Orange Buds would have never forgiven him, by the way. Just so you know.
Not at all.
That would have been really bad for him.
But he was like argumentative about it. He was like super cocky about it. He wasn't like he just casually put it out there.
He was like acting like it was there's just no way. I'm like, well, there's a way, there's a way like this. If this, and we were going back and forth with Alex, because Alex was like, there's no way this could be close. I'm like, well, if this offense goes into the lull that they normally go into, and and remember what I said on the prediction show, Catch? I said third quarter Texas, and I'm like, if the Texas that we see in the third quarter shows up, well, there's a way, and that's another thing they got to figure out. This third quarter thing is just kind of ridiculous, but it does, to your point, it makes this season successful for Texas. For others, when you start looking at measuring sticks, that one you can have all the glitz and glamour. Like Jason can tell you, you could have 6 different uniforms. Like you could be like the cool guys on the street. You could be Joe Cool, but at some point you have to deliver on the goods. And right now, Oregon's not delivering on the goods.
All right, let's get through these super chats, guys. Jason and I have to give up our headsets in about 12 minutes. Let's see if we can get through these super chats. Colin with a $5. When will Sark learn that we have to kick from the left hash? He overcompensates every other spot. How can fans see it? And they can't. Crazy to me. Colin, we did mention that earlier. Catch pointed it out. Special team stuff, very shaky in this game, and that's an element of it. $9.99. Oscar, what quarterback in the playoff wins that game for Texas like that? Please tell me.
Will Howard did throw for like 300 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns in the first half. So.
Howard's probably the guy, Oscar. I would trust Will Howard to maybe pull that off.
Cade Klubnik last week.
Well.
That's true. Cade Klubnik playing like he played last week maybe is that guy. I think that's fair. $5 from Smitty. Why did the O-line underperform today? Arizona State isn't like Georgia up front.
They're not, but this is not a bad Arizona front. Like people act like, oh, they're undersized. But you know what? If you talk to people who cover that Arizona State team, they'll tell you, hey, they're pretty talented, and their front 5 or 6.
But 1.8 yards a carry. Texas Tech put 34 minutes of time of possession on this team. Like Cincinnati put a time of possession on them and beat them in a game. That was weird to me, fellas. I wasn't ready for 1.8.
No, the lack of run game was probably the biggest surprise for me, and this lack of Texas run game was probably the biggest surprise for me. And my Prize Picks account will reflect that as I take a hit. Yeah.
That was weird. I wasn't quite ready for that because we all understand Gooseby has stepped in and looked really good, and I wouldn't put today on Gooseby in any way. I just was shocked that they couldn't run any better than that. JS Hook'em 499. Texas is the only team that beat 2 conference champs in the playoffs. Just saying. Hook'em, great game. They have beaten 2 conference champions so far. That's true. That is true.
They got one more that they may need to get past.
Yeah, exactly.
They're kind of good.
They may have to deal with one more, at least. Michael, I guess it would be, one more. And unless Notre Dame
wouldn't be a conference champ that they'd be dealing with next week.
Not next week, but maybe Georgia.
That's true.
That's Georgia. That's what I'm talking about.
Georgia's the one that, right.
That's what I'm talking about.
That is still out there. The other 2 with Notre Dame and Ohio State wouldn't be. With all due respect to Penn State.
Not that it matters, but I think Oregon just scored. So.
There you go. Yeah, we'll see. And who knows? Maybe if Oregon comes back and makes this any kind of ball game, you think of it differently? Maybe. I don't know. 499 super chat from Michael. Offense needs to find a way to stay on the field. Defense can play at a high level when the bands are on the field longer than the Texas offense. Michael, you're absolutely right. You can't keep doing business that way, and I think Sark understands it, and it sounds like that.
Chad, there was a moment. I don't know. You get towards the end of the third quarter, and they hadn't scored a touchdown, so Texas was still up by 9. And you're like, oh, I guess if this is as bad as it's going to get. When they got ready to punt, there's like 30 seconds to go in the third quarter. And I went to go do that thing where I count whatever Quinn Ewers' quarter by quarter thing is. And I was like, wait a minute. Did the stat page freeze? Because he hadn't thrown a pass, and there's like 30 seconds to go in the quarter. And I was like, that can't be possible.
Mm-hmm.
Surely he's thrown a pass in the third quarter. And then I looked it up, and they'd only had 4 freaking plays.
But why does that keep happening? I mean, I know
they only had 5 in the first quarter.
Right. And again, part of that is the switch around on a punt return for a touchdown.
But it seems to happen every damn week for Texas. Like, well, Quinn only threw 2 passes in the third quarter. It's like, why is that every week?
And later it was about that safety, but it's also about 1.8 yards a carry. I mean, they just, I don't know. I never felt like the run.
I don't know that there's a person to point the finger at today. Right. There's, as all of us have pointed out, but Anwar has, specifically, like, this is a weekly deal. And this is the kind of thing that in shows now we talk about. We literally had a conversation. Do we think they'll go through a 30-plus minute lull? And it was like 50-50. It was like, well, that's kind of who they are. But at some point they've got to stop. But then it didn't stop today. I don't point the finger at anybody, but it happened, right? So it's not completely the running game's fault. It's not completely the coaching. It's not completely Quinn. But like at the end of the day, we did this thing again where, thank God Silas Bolden had the punt return, because otherwise we're talking about a Texas offense that going into the fourth quarter, it's a 10-8 game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that game looks completely different if you just take that one play out of the equation. And I think the way we think about the Texas offense maybe even changes a lot as well. But hey, man, screw it. They make plays late. They're advancing to the semifinals. I don't have any time inside of me to be super picky about the details.
How about a $4.99 super chat here? Jay Wall, Scat had a concussion from earlier in the game, shaking his head all day, puking on the sideline, and still did all that. But QB1 got us the victory. Scattaboo had
I knew he was a good player, but I gained a lot of respect for him. Just the way he fought through some
that stuff. That was a gutsy day for him in every literal and figurative way. $5 from Jay Lee. I'm currently in a disgust and embarrassment stage. I'm sure gratitude and happiness from the win will come eventually. You give it time, Jay. Have a couple of drinks. Give it time.
Hey, what are you saying?
Jay,
wanna
you
play-
gotta enjoy these things.
It's a new world, Jay. It's playoffs. If you come on. If you like the NFL, you know what this is like. Win the game, advance.
Jay, one of the things I
Come on.
have in my column that I haven't posted yet is we just can't get to a point where advancing to the semifinals is no big deal.
Yeah, that's
Especially
too
since
first
it's never
world.
happened before. You know what? Only 2 teams in the history of college football have ever gotten to the semifinals because they won 2 playoff games to get there. Right now, Texas and Penn State. Now, that will likely change before the end of this evening. But, God, don't act like this isn't a really important thing and a really like encouraging and positive thing. Come on.
Yeah, come on now, Jay. Come on, you'll get there. You'll get there. Just more drinks, hang out with friends. You'll be fine.
Sark is 2 wins away from having as many national championships as Mac Brown.
Well, not just that, as Texas has had since 1970.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hey, and also
easy on the man.
Also, Anwar, you mentioned it. I'm saying this half kidding, but also, if it's true that Mac Brown's moving back to Austin in this January of 2025, maybe get him on the phone to Bert Auburn because nobody can whisper to those kickers like Mac Brown. I'm just
Maybe
saying.
that could be Max.
Just
Really.
maybe
if you're Sark, you want Mac to show up for a practice every once in a while, but you want your program. You don't need someone leaning over. They don't need him leaning over your shoulder
like I said, partially kidding, but Mac could whisper to a kicker, man. What a great deal. All right, Ben, $4.99. We lose to Ohio State / Oregon if our O disappears for most of the game. Again, don't mean to be glass half empty, but we shouldn't. We should have whooped ASU, not a nail biter.
Probably, but I think Oregon's beatable.
But I think we would all agree if it looks like that again, you go that dry.
It's looked like that all year long.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you know what, Anwar, it's a good point. Maybe the defense can hold it together enough.
We've seen it before,
even against an Ohio State. They get a chance. That's the beauty of it. And I already checked with college football. They're going to start that game at no score. It will not be 34-0 Ohio State when they kick it off. So it's going to be fun to see if Texas can hang
We got
with
3
the Buckeyes.
minutes. Let's knock out the big ones.
Aaron, 1999. Is it true they said Bert Auburn is the most prolific kicker in UT history?
In terms of points or field goals, yes. That's true.
Yep. Career field goals made, yes.
Yep. Just where does Justin Tucker in the mix? I mean, he's right there, but he's just not on top. Just not on top of that list. A little hard to believe.
1999 here, Chad, from Barb's.
I'm buying I'm buying y'all both a stiff drink, Anwar and Jason, at the next TCH social watch party. Y'all got to show up. You got to show up. Didn't even have my popcorn ready.
I'll see you next week, so I'll be ready.
Well, I mean, I kind of have to go to these games, so I can't go to.
We need to find like a NFL or a Texas hoops game. And Barb's can meet us up here. And we're
gonna get a basketball when Anwar can show up. That's what we're gonna do. $10 from Tom G. Quinn's coin tossing calls are elite.
Yeah, you got both of them, right?
I thought QE was money today, and if we get that QE from here on out, we'll be fine if we can also run the ball. There's your good combo right there. Yes, those 2 things at the same time.
It does not hurt.
No, that would work perfectly well. Oscar with another $9.99. Jay Lee blocked me because I defend Quinn, but this one's to you, buddy. I'll pour one out for you. Sorry you can't handle someone disagreeing with you. Sorry, y'all. I'm petty.
We're like on Orange Bloods. We don't allow call-out threads. Maybe not call-out super chats.
I didn't know that when I clicked on it. I just saw like the $9.99 and
he paid.
He paid it?
Yeah, that's right.
He paid the money. $9.99.
Hey, if you guys need to run, catch it. I can finish up the rest of the super chats.
We got like 2-3 minutes.
We only have a few more to go, so let's just knock them out. And
all right, we can get. They did tell us absolute latest 6:45, so I think we have a chance to close the door. I just wanted to get the 6:30 in your mind. John Lynch, it's looking like the bye may be causing some rust. All 3 have gotten blasted out of the gate. Obviously, ASU recovered, but this Oregon game is wild. We need Jade to follow for next week on D. Okay, there you go.
Follow the Ohio State's receiver.
Yeah,
he's got like 170 yards in the first half or something like that.
We'll see how it plays out with the quarters to see if rust is going to ultimately.
I didn't think that was a huge deal for Arizona State today. Like I think whatever was happening early in the game, I didn't think to myself they were super rusty.
Bebo versus Sark said they weren't. He could tell that they were really physical and tackled well.
Overtime Sark greater than regular time Sark for calling plays to win, $9.99. Hey,
I don't
Bevo.
know, man. They had a chance to win with a field goal. Like, the play calls were fine. The kicking was not fine.
Yeah, there was some of it that wasn't as as aggressive as others, but Anwar laid out that sequence. Boy, when it needed to get aggressive, it got aggressive and it stayed that way. There's no doubt. And we'll get some of the little ones to finish. Thank you, Mark, for $2. Everything helps. Bet Jason a bottle. QE goes
I'm not
pro.
saying he'll go pro. That
sport.
would be my bet. I don't think he should. I think if he's truly got $6 million, he should take the $6 million.
Jason, we're not going to do this. We're almost at the finish line.
Go. Hey, I got drinks waiting at the hotel, so I've got my eyes on the prize now.
That's right. We won't do that.
I got my eyes on the prize now. I'm good.
We won't do that. $1.99 from Marcus. Marcos, no way we're running against Ohio State. We're cooked.
Man, this running game can be really good one week and not so good the next. We'll see what version shows up.
Ohio State fumbling again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And even Jaden Blue fumbled, but he just fumbled out of bounds.
Got to hang on to the football.
He's going to tell you that does not count. Onward.
That does not count.
Still counts as a fumble in the stats. But yeah.
Mental thing with Muhammad and Auburn. Certainly with Auburn. I don't know if it's mental with Muhammad, but can't keep giving up big plays like that. But the Auburn thing, yeah.
I mean, just Auburn to hit like one big kick, maybe that gets him back on track. He's got the leg. We know he can do it.
Yeah, it has to be. And finally, here's our last word from Brian. Wrong guy won Bolitnikoff. Smith all day, every day. Brian's obviously watching the first hunk of that Ohio State game as he sent that one in.
I don't know that I disagree. I mean, if you're asking me who do I think is a better receiver, I will take Smith over Travis Hunter.
100%.
He's incredible.
Absolutely.
He's incredible.
Better football player? Maybe not. Better receiver?
Oh,
yes.
He is a beast. All right, gentlemen, anything else before we close up?
No, happy New Year, everybody.
Enjoy tonight. Enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a good way to say it. Over 3,000 of you in the Specs chat as we get ready to close up. Texas fans, enjoy. You advance in a crazy one. You're taking on probably Ohio State. We'll see how it finishes. But whatever it is, it's Friday evening, the 10th of January. Guess where? Jerry World. Texas headed to the Cotton Bowl, and it's a 6:30 kick, so we'll be right here. TCH Social Austin for the watch party. If you want to come out, drink special start at 5:30. The kick at 6:30. Anwar, safe travels back from Atlanta.
Enjoy your drinks at the hotel.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be back here in a couple of more weeks.
I was going to say, make sure they save a seat for you, maybe.
What would have happened on
the 20th?
When's your flight back?
It's tomorrow. Tomorrow at like 11 o'clock.
Imagine if you were in New Orleans, and because I was thinking about that today. Like, their game gets pushed back 24 hours, and everybody has their flights going out.
Yeah.
Like, literally, how many people are having to change their flights?
Yeah.
You know, the biggest reason I want Texas to,
all that.
I want Anwar to get to go back to Atlanta. I want us to get to come to the TCH Social. I want to hear Terry's question. So I want Texas to win.
We all want to do that. We all want to hear Terry's question. Yes. And before we get out, since Catch mentioned it, obviously all thoughts and prayers and just incredible feelings going out to New Orleans to all the families of those that were killed and injured and the police officers and everybody involved there. That game is same kick time, but now tomorrow night, in case you don't know, 7:45 Central
Time. It's the evening, not the afternoon kick.
From what I've seen is 7.
I think they just pushed it back a day.
Yeah, they literally went 24 hours.
I saw
later.
Alex complaining about something that it was in the afternoon. He was complaining on Twitter that it was in the afternoon.
I may be wrong on that then. I thought I'd seen 7:45. It may be. So just double check your listings on that. But they are moving the game till tomorrow. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you had a great start to 2025 and hope your heart made it through this one. If you're a Texas fan, you got another game and we'll be talking about it. Regular day tomorrow on Orange Bloods Live.
3 p.m. Thursday. Sorry, 3 p.m.
Oh,
Thursday.
3 p.m. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw Alex complaining about it. He said people have to work and everything.
And I think that's Eastern time. So
wow. Okay. All right.
So, I was like, well, I think the dead people are probably a little bit more inconvenienced, but okay.
An afternoon kick for Georgia and Notre Dame tomorrow. Thanks to everybody for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. Until the next post-game show after Texas and probably Ohio State. Thanks to the Lowy Law Firm for sponsoring. Thanks to TCH Social Austin for having us out. And thanks to Specs for providing that chat, of course. Y'all take care out there.